minutes until showtime. 3 minutes until showtime. 2 minutes until showtime. 1 minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
With Election Day in less than 2 months, what is on the line is not a simple difference of policies, it is the fate of our nation. Judicial activists at all levels have put roadblocks in the way of justice. The 34-time convicted felon will not see a prison cell before Election Day. MAGA activists at state and local levels are working to disenfranchise voters, and foreign governments are paying conservative bloggers to spread their propaganda. On Liberal Dane Radio, we cut through the lies, unwind the spin, and give facts to counter their fiction. Will you do what needs to be done to make sure our nation isn't taken over by an autocratic despot? Or will you sit back and watch as our nation falls to ruin? The clock is ticking. Act now before it's too late.
That's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation is area code 914-803-4131, 914-803-4131. Before Corey the Ender leaves, shouts out to Corey the Ender from my dude, i.e. Tommy's stream, mod from over there. Doing what heroes do. If you can't stay and listen, just swing by and slap that like button and go on your merry way. So appreciate you, appreciate the shouts out, and I've not checked my email in the past day or two. Hopefully we'll be able to get it so that Tommy can come on the stream and we can do a little joint collab discussing politics and the like. So anyway, we Tommy's taking it off tonight. Oh, there you go. Well, everybody needs a day off every once in a while, right? I mean, I'm only doing this 2 nights a week at the moment because I have my regular full-time job that I need to pay attention to. So anyway, shouts out to Ikbadir, Jolie, Suzanne. It's been a long time since I've seen you, Suzanne, at least since I've recognized you in the chat, I guess. I hope things are going well with you. Fowler's Wrath, Surrender Monkey, Steve from across the pond, Feet on the Dashboard, CR, Michael, Mr. Hunt, good to see you. Trucker John's in the house. Trucker John, yes, indeed, R.I.P. Fernando Valenzuela. 1 year he was an Oriole, but most well known as being a Dodger, and excellent pitcher. Pitched a no-hitter. One of the more not the hardest thing to do as a pitcher, but still none the same. Good to see you, Rick. Thank you for joining the chat. If you've not subscribed already, please remember to do so. Subscribing to YouTube is always free. Becoming a Danimal is different. You can be a Danimal as little as $2 a month. You can also buy super chats, super stickers to support the show. You can Venmo, Liberal Dan at Venmo. You can buy me a cider if you want to see the notification appear. Buymeacoffee.com/LiberalDanRadio, or just go to liberaldan.com and click the Buy Me a Cider button. Either way gets you there. Also, Patreon. You can be a patron. I'm probably going to switch up some of the Patreon levels at some point soon. Not for the existing people, obviously, but for new ones, I might just change what it means, what you get, etc. Hey, Willoughby over in the Twitch chat. If you happen to be somebody who likes to use Discord and wants to try out Nitro without having to pay an exorbitant amount of money, I think Nitro costs like $9.99 a month. If you use Discord and you want to get and if you want to get a cheaper version of Nitro for 3 months, apparently Twitch is having a deal. Just like the Apple TV or Apple Plus or whatever it is, Apple TV Plus that they had a while back ago. If you go over to Twitch, twitch.tv/LiberalDanRadio, and you subscribe to my channel, not using the Amazon Prime. I don't think the Amazon Prime counts as this, but if you buy a new subscription or gift another subscription to somebody else, you can get 3 free months of Discord Nitro. For no additional cost, i.e., so if you're paying the $5.99 it is for the Twitch subscription, you get that, plus you get the $30 worth of Discord Nitro. If you want to take advantage of that deal, just go to twitch.tv/LiberalDanRadio, and you have to do it when I'm live, I think. So there you go. What's going on, Jeff from Missouri? Witchy Woman, good to see you. Alton, howdy from Paradise, Texas. Can you see Paradise from your dashboard light? You can probably see it from anywhere, I would guess. I would reckon, but thank you for sharing the link, Jolie. You and Aaron are invaluable to me. I wish I could do more for y'all at the time. But we need to grow, etc., etc. So what is my thing about Donald Trump, top 5 worst nominee for president ever? Call in and prove me wrong. What I'm doing tonight is I'm basically saying an open call to people who want to tell me why Donald Trump isn't the worst, want to convince me otherwise. But I'm going to limit them to 5 minutes. If you can't say it in 5 minutes, you probably won't be able to say it. I can probably say why Donald Trump is the worst in less than 1. It includes things like him being an anti-Semite, him being an admitted rapist, him being a racist. That's just him wanting to be a dictator on day 1. That should be enough. What he's done to the courts, the unfettered power, the unchecked power he'll have as somebody who wanted a military parade in his honor in his first term. I'm surprised he didn't push for it more, but I'm guaranteeing you we will see a Trump honoring military parade in his honor if Trump gets elected. So there you go. That's much less than a minute, and I could go on and on. There's plenty of things to say about Donald Trump as to why he is the worst candidate. He lies all the time. Well, I mean, how can you tell a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. So there are a lot of politicians that lie, and that's fine. You know, it comes with the. It's not fine, obviously, but it's more than that with Donald Trump. It's more than just simple policy lies. It's more than simple. You know, I want to. You know, I will do this when I'm president to help people and then never do it. Like, that's the lie. That's a typical political lie. And half the times it's not even a lie because of the fact that, like, when one of the things that Vice President Harris has done really well, I will say, on this topic, is she doesn't really say often, if at all, that if you elect me president, I will restore Roe versus Wade as the law of the land. She doesn't say that. She says, if you elect me president and Congress passes a bill to make a national protection of abortion rights, i.e. codify Roe v. Wade at a national level, I will sign that law. Which is one of the things that, for past presidents that have run for office, it's one of the things that drove me crazy. For a very long time, when politicians say, I'm going to do this when I get to Congress, I'm going to do this when I become president. When you can't, because we're not in a dictatorship, obviously, and we hope to not be after Trump gets elected, if he gets elected. So stop Trump from getting elected, so he's not a dictator on day one. But the thing is that you can't do all these things by yourself. You could sign executive orders. You could say, I'm going to sign an executive order doing X, Y, and Z, and that's fine. You could absolutely promise to do that as presidential candidate, but if you run for the Senate, if you're running for the House, if you're running for any sort of legislative body where you're not the sole decision maker, you could propose things all day long. It's just a matter of will they get passed or not. So then you have a lot of politicians coming up, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z when I get to office, and then they don't get it done. But there's no power for them to get it done. When I ran for Congress in 2004, one of the things that I was very careful when I was making my list of campaign policies that I was going to run on, and even when I ran for city council as well in the city of Kenner, I did the same thing for both of those, or all of those elections, because I ran for council twice. I basically said, if I'm elected, I would propose to do this. If I was elected, I would propose to do that. I would make all of these things, and these would be the things that I would propose. Now, if I failed to propose those things, then by all means, you should call me to the carpet on it. You should tell me how wrong I am, that I misled you. But I wasn't under any assumption or any belief or idea that I would be able to do all these things by myself, and I obviously would need the help of other people to get these things done. But if I propose them and they don't get done, well, I've done my job. Problem is, other people didn't go along and come along and help me. So, are there new essay allegations out against Trump today? Why am I not surprised? Not surprised. What's going on with you, woman? Did I miss something? Just my freaking neck herniation that won't chill out. I'm very sorry. I would share an edible with you if I could. Can't pass it over the internet though. So I would ring you to argue Trump's McDonald's Ghost of Honey Monster Halloween costume was excellent. I mean, that very well be true, but the unfortunate thing is that's not what makes him that doesn't make him a good presidential candidate. So that's not going to be a convincing argument for me. Now, we have had other conservative people who do call into the show, and one of the things that I'm basically trying to say that assuming we get calls, we might get no calls because maybe they're afraid to maybe they'll be afraid to touch it. Maybe they're afraid to not want to, go up and maybe don't think they can do it in 5 minutes. If you should be able to, if you think Donald Trump is not the top 5 worst presidential candidates in history, you should clearly be able to do that in less than 5 minutes. So that's what I'm going to give them. I'm going to give them 5 minutes to do it. Now, if I happen to push, mute on them to make a point, I'll stop the clock. But I will give them 5. It'll be kind of like a chess clock thing. You have 5 minutes to make your case, and if I interrupt you, I'm not going to take away from your 5 minutes. But that's basically, I don't believe that anybody will be able to do it because there's the only reason I haven't said worst presidential candidate in American history, and I'm saying top 5, is to give myself wiggle room for people like, Strom Thurmond or any. I'm kind of wanting to limit it to major political candidates, i.e., I'm not throwing Jill Stein in that list of people because Jill Stein has never been and will never be competitive. Because that's not what Jill Stein's there for. Jill Stein's there for to be a Republican or a Russian shill to help the Republicans win. Just kind of like Tulsi Gabbard was, and then Tulsi Gabbard finally went ahead and went full GOP. And she took off her wolf's clothing and revealed herself to be another one of Donald Trump's sheep. So she was I guess that's right. That makes sense. I don't know. Jolie voted today, early voting in Bloomington. I think I'm going to be doing my early voting tomorrow. I've just been out of it this past few days. Tuesday, I took off from work because I was just out of it. I was sore. I was tired. The Zepbound has already started kicking in. If you're familiar with any of these types of drugs, Zepbound cause you to have these sulfur burps, and they're not just weird tasting, they're weird sounding. They come out sounding very weird. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. I've ever witnessed, and I've had it happen. I had it happen when I was on Trulicity back in the day, but then I got cut off from Trulicity, so of course, skyrocketed back up. Now I'm back on the medicine, i.e. the Zepbound, and hopefully that's going to help me. Jeff Curry, a retired colonel I know, always said a meeting should never last more than an hour. The mind can only adjust as long as the ass can endure. I like that. That's pretty good. Most meetings should be emails too. I have a lot that I love my employer. I think I have a great employer. I like my boss. I love everybody. Most of the people, 99.9% of the people I work with are great. But the thing is that, where was I going with that? God damn it. Oh, yeah, we have a lot of meetings that could simply just be emails, which is typical and par for the course for the corporate world. But yeah, there's plenty of emails there are plenty of emails that could be sent that could replace, the whole, let's get together and actually have a meeting. And half the time, one of the weekly meetings does turn into just emails. Hey, we have these 2 things that need to be approved to throw into a production environment. Everybody agree? Yeah, sure, fine. Good, it's approved. Done. There you go. See, absentee voted in Texas for Harris. Remember November. Absolutely, we need to remember November. It's one of the main reasons, why people should be voting for Vice President Harris. And one of the things that's frustrating that I see I'm in a lot of leftist spaces on Facebook because politically the issues that I support fall along the leftist ideology, i.e. Medicaid, Medicare for all, UBI, reparations, etc. Those are the things that I support as a person on the left-hand side of the political spectrum. Now, I'm more pragmatic about it than most, but there are people who will just say, oh well, the liberals, the Democrats just have only used Roe versus Wade as a scare tactic. We have no reason to believe that they're going to do anything with it. And I'm like, but if Trump gets in office, it's going to be worse. The leftists will complain about how how the Democrats have not done enough when it comes to being forceful with Netanyahu and the actions of the Israeli government as it pertains to Gaza. And I agree that we should be a little more stern. And I think we finally gave them a warning that said if it doesn't improve in 30 days, we're going to do a weapons embargo. So maybe that should have came earlier, but better late than never, I guess. But still, the idea that Trump wants Netanyahu to, quote, finish the job. And I've been saying Trump just wants Trump Gaza to be along the Mediterranean. He wants to be able to have property that he can develop in his name or in the names of maybe his relatives. And then somebody else I saw today said that might actually be a thing that is proposed. So maybe I'm right. I hate when it comes to Donald Trump, I hate being right. I really do. I really hate being right because he's proven me right time and time again, and every single time he does so, things get worse for the country. Same thing, me, Hal, I'm sure Tommy's the same way. I'm sure we've made lots of predictions about Donald Trump that have become true. There's only one that I was worried about that never came true, and we're fortunate for it. Maybe Donald Trump didn't think he needed to, for example, expand the size of the court. I would be very concerned if Donald Trump wins. Donald Trump will have a Republican Senate and a Republican House and a Republican-controlled Supreme Court that is in his pocket, 5 votes in his pocket. And then he might even get to name 2 more people, so then he'll have 7 votes in his pocket. You want to see what will be really bad? He'll then try and expand the court at that point. Oh, the Democrats wanted to do it. We'll do it. And then he'll expand the court. He'll add more people to the court, and then it'll just be a kangaroo court from that point. Certain. So let's see. What did Mike say? Scroll back up. Do you have thyroid issues, witchy woman? Yeah, it's tough. I know several people who have had the thyroid surgery, one of which being my mom, and it did not turn out as well as it could have for her. She had to go to the hospital after the surgery. She basically has a little inflator, pool toy inflator thing in the middle of her throat. So it's hard for her to have a full voice at that point. But yeah, the scalpel, I don't know if it's a thyroid issue that you're having, but yeah, I've known several people to get it done. Like I saw another person with a scar, and I was like, oh, you had your thyroid removed? How'd you know? A little scar right there, and I just know other people have got it done. And that person, it went okay, but unfortunately for my mom, it did not go as okay. I mean, she's still alive, so there's that. But she unfortunately had to deal with, has had to deal with that for a long time, and whatever comes with it, like, not being able to go swim, which would suck. Jeff Curry, Kimchi, I was paralyzed for a while after the second spine surgery. It sucked for sure. Learning how to walk again is so weird. I can't imagine, I should say. I'm having nerve things with my feet. Like, after I had, like, was it 2018 or maybe 2019? I think it was 2018. I came home, came back to New Orleans from visiting my family up in Maryland. Came back, I don't know what happened, but I woke up the next day and I was in utter pain. I think for a month I was just out off the shelf. I could not handle anything. I could barely even walk to the bathroom. I made it happen because, you need to go to the bathroom. But other than that, I just stayed in bed for at least a week, I think. So, see, Surrender Monkey. When Republicans cross out Donald's name and write Jefferson Davis's instead, Trump will take that as kisses. What? Did he actually say that? Or what? I can imagine that he might say something as silly as that. My friend can't sing because the surgeon nicked her vocal cords. That would suck too. I mean, I love karaoke, and if I had to have a procedure and my vocal cords got nicked, I'd be so pissed off. So, see, I don't know if it was sciatica or not, because the doctors eventually did take the look at it, and they were like, that's not sciatica. So I don't know what the hell the problem is, but it's still just very numb. Like, I actually stepped on a nail, I think, a nail or a piece of glass in the garage when I was walking in the garage barefoot, and it didn't hurt a lot, but it hurt enough to me to check. Otherwise, I would have not checked, and I would have been bleeding all over the house. So, are we almost ready for a fat man right yet? I don't know. Are we ready for some, again, some conservatives to call in and try and prove me wrong? I'm going to give them the opportunity. They have the opportunity. Again, I'm limiting each call to 5 minutes, and I'm making sure that, and again, it'll be chess clock time. So if they want to call in, they want to challenge me on why Donald Trump is bad, then they're more than welcome to do so. But we're going to limit them to 5 minutes in this case because you should be able to do it in 5 minutes. So simple as that. So, what's up, TV2 Live? Good to see you. Rick Larson, I have nerve damage to both feet, can't jog, can't walk long distances. I can't walk long distances because of my knees. Hopefully that will become better as some of the weight drops with the Zepbound, which would then allow me to start walking around more, which would then help me lose weight more. So, but I am already kind of feeling the lack of appetite that you're supposed to get with Zepbound as well. I sat down, I got the kids some food for dinner today because Cassie's at mom's night out, and all of a sudden, I couldn't finish what I was eating. I had to put half of it away. So I'm like, well, it's doing its job already. That's a good thing. So I probably should take some Epsom salts in that. I used to, when I was having the back issues, I did get into the tub and get me some Epsom salts, and it helped a little bit, but it is what it is. Yes, we're Liberal Dan Radio. Injured talk from the left. That's right. Hey, Aaron. Good to see you. Thank you for sharing the phone number as well. Again, 914-803-4131, 914-803-4131. Even if you don't want to prove me wrong, if you just want to chat, you're welcome to do so. Come on in. We could talk about the top. Maybe you could give me your reasons as to why you think Donald Trump is the worst, or top 5 worst, or the worst nominee for president ever. More than happy to welcome y'all in as well. So, but again, we will have ground rules for this. If people do decide to call in for this one, they're going to be limited to 5 minutes. They're going to a chess clock version of 5 minutes, but they'll be limited to 5 minutes. They'll be able to make their point, but if they don't make their point, then they'll lose the conversation. We can't walk long distance because the UK is only 300 by 600 miles. I mean, so were they lying when they would say they'd walk 500 miles and then walk 500 more? Because if he's going to walk 1,000 miles, he'll probably end up in France, right? So, bong hits for everyone. Enjoy. Puff, puff, pass, MFers. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more. Sorry, that was bad. So shouts out to the TO show live over on Twitch. You're not commenting currently, but still somebody who did give out 5 community subs, so I appreciate that. So I do want to give shouts out to those who support the show. Today, of course, again, we had Nick, who signed up to be a Liberal Danimal. Appreciate you as well for doing that. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Chocolate shortbread cookies. Where'd that come around? Total lies that were the Scottish and would get arrested before 3 miles. Da-da-da-da-da. There was somebody, I think it was a Royal Caribbean cruise. I think we were back on January of 2019. This is right before my wife had her celiac diagnosis, and I was like, look, do you need to, they needed to test her body, do whatever test they needed to do, either a blood test or test her villi or whatever, to see whether or not she had celiac, and she came in right in that number. But basically I was like, look, do you need to be clear of gluten during this time, or before the test do you need to eat the gluten so we can measure, so that you can be measured as to what damage is being done? And I bet she called in and was like, okay, I need to eat the gluten to make sure it's done, the test tests me correctly as to how I react with a normal diet. I'm like, good, you can enjoy yourself on your cruise then. So we went on the cruise, and there was this one woman who loved singing 500 Miles, but instead of that, instead of that, she would just go shot of vodka, shot of vodka, shot of vodka, shot of vodka, and a rum and a rum and a rum and a rum and a Coke. So that was back in what, over 5.5 years now, and I still remember the silly version that she sung in karaoke. That was also the time where Royal Caribbean did live band karaoke, where they gave you the lyrics, but the band was playing behind you instead of you having the music, and that was really awesome. Of course, then the band trolled you sometimes, and they kept on repeating the last part of Take On Me, so I kept on having to do the high falsetto thing over and over again. I'm like, all right, it's enough, guys. We're quitting it at this point. Too much. So, easy network. Hey guys, E. coli breakout as McDonald's now. Maybe that's a sign of not to vote for Trump. You want lies with that? That's what you want lies with that, which is automatic because lies automatically come with anything Donald Trump does, right? I'm still confused as to how Donald Trump working 15 minutes at a McDonald's in a McDonald's that they closed down just to do a PR stunt. How does that prove in any way, shape, or form that Vice President Harris didn't work at McDonald's? It does. Of course, nothing Donald Trump does makes any sense whatsoever. But again, the idea that he can fool people, his supporters, into thinking that these things are great, wonderful ideas, it just goes to show you that he was right in the fact that he has a lot of support amongst the poorly educated, and that's why he loves them so much, because they're willing to buy anything from him. Ties, watches, concepts of watches, etc. They'll buy anything. Of course, the kids wanted McDonald's tonight, and Louisiana was not in the group of states where the E. coli breakout happened, but apparently we were still not allowed to buy Quarter Pounder with cheeses. That was completely off the menu in the mobile app, so no throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I suppose. Thought it was the onions, so just don't do onions, but some people are saying, oh, maybe it's the meat, I don't know. So, Steve, have you seen the Ken Lee woman on one of Britain's Time to... You mean, Ken Lee, to libo dibo without you, Ken Lee... That one? Yes, I have seen that one. It's hilarious. To libo dibo without you. Jeff Curry, I never cared for McDonald's when kids were little. They didn't like it either. I was blessed. Yeah, I mean, the kids love the nuggets. I mean, they are obsessed with chicken nuggets. There are clearly much better chicken nuggets. I actually got them chicken tenders from a much better chicken place, but it didn't agree with my youngest son's stomach at all tonight. So he was like, we are not going back there again. So, hey, Kelly Anderson, good to see you. Thank you for joining. And Big Hook's here. Good to see you as well. See, it sucks as a troll, and then he cannot claim he paid for it because we all know he never pays his bills. Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't pay his bills. There are still cities that have outstanding, amounts due to him from his 2016 campaign that he wouldn't pay because he doesn't pay his bills. He thinks he's above any law. So, Suzanne, I like jalapenos on my hamburger. See, I like jalapenos on burgers sometimes as well, but there was a time when McDonald's did have the jalapenos on like the Quarter Pounder with cheese, and it was just not good jalapenos. I'll just put it that way. Yeah, their chicken tenders weren't bad for being McDonald's chicken tenders. I'll caveat that. My youngest one wanted Cane's, and I'm like, I really wanted something. I wanted something beef. Of course, I ended up getting chicken, but I really wanted something beef, and just Cane's. Just there's something missing from Raising Cane's, that like the sauce is just missing one thing that would probably make it excellent. So, Kelly, Hamilton, Ontario, Hamilton, or another Hamilton. Said witchy woman, the potatoes go in cracked lace oil. Everyone knows that or thinks that damn they're the best. I mean, McDonald's fries are pretty darn good. There are other fries that are clearly better, but We've completely gone into the let's talk pop culture stuff early. I'm just sitting here waiting for somebody to call in 914-803-4131, I mean, and to talk about why they think I'm wrong about Donald Trump being the top 5 worst nominee for president ever. I mean, what's one way that you can look at Donald Trump being bad? The own people that he worked with have said no. He's gone too far. This is too much. You know, his own vice president clearly won't endorse him. Well, because his supporters wanted him dead, and Donald Trump did nothing to protect him. So yeah, with friends like that, right? Easy E Network. Five Guys fries are better. Yeah, I like Five Guys fries, especially because they're the type of fries that you can have with like a nice malt vinegar and some salt, and that just makes it really, really good. I love me some Five. I love Five Guys in my mouth. Jeff Kerr, I love milkshake. Problem with the milkshakes is they never have them because the ice cream machine's always broken. See, if Donald Trump wanted to prove himself to be a great McDonald's employee, he'd figure out how to fix the ice cream machine so you can get ice cream and shakes, right? Well, the reason for the calls today, I wanted to get some low-hanging fruit coming in to try and tell me why Donald Trump is, not the worst, and I don't have a feeling that I have a feeling that you wouldn't be calling in to support that idea. You'd be supporting the idea that he is the worst. So, I wasn't that big on the Five Guys is way too much meat for you, eh, witchy woman? Oh, so many ways we could go there. Where's Jeff? Where's Jeff? Not adding enough dirty stuff into the chat at this point. Plus, I was waiting for others to join in as well, who might also participate in the whole thing that I like Five Guys in my mouth. I once bought the guys who sing Tiger Feet a round of beers. My girlfriend was furious because I liked beer and music more still. Interesting. Buttermilk and hot sauce of choice. Soaked chicken gizzards in a couple days. Batter and deep fry. Wow, good. I do like some good buttermilk ranch, and I do like some hot sauce. I'm definitely as translucent as my DNA test seems to suggest that I am, because I'm completely 100% honky according to that. I do like me some hot sauce. I do like me some hot food, spicy food, etc. So there was actually when I went to Disney, there was at Food and Wine Festival, they had a experiment lab where they had all different types of wings, and they actually had a pickle milkshake, which was weird. It wasn't bad, but it was weird. The best thing at that build was the fried pickle spears, but they also had a ridiculously unnecessarily hot set of onion rings that somebody ate, and it took them less than a second for the heat to kick in and for them to have to dive into something that to quench the thirst in their mouth. It wasn't that bad for me. It was hot. It was very spicy. My wife wouldn't have been able to handle it. My kids wouldn't have been able to handle it, but I thought it was tasty and very fiery. So, hey, Janelle Walker, good to see you. Hey, Dawn, good to see you as well. Trump's right nostril flaring is proof he's snorting something. Probably more than one thing, that's for darn sure. Nick Rich, 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame and seed bun. That's why the sandwich from McDowell's was completely different, because McDowell's buns had no seeds. So, see, MJ Daniel, give me some spicy food. Yeah, I'm just about as Irish as President Biden. Yeah, pretty much. Half of me is Irish, English, Northwest Europe type area. The other half of me just shows up as European Jewish. And except for the 1%, I'm 1% Sardinian, so I'm 1% fish. So, yeah, Jeff. I need to go to Jeff's house just to sample all of his hot sauces, because apparently he makes a lot. What you want? I will fight with you if you need it. Netanyahu is a terrorist, and Jews are on the path of becoming the Nazis they fled. I would agree with you on the first part. I will absolutely agree with you on the first part. Netanyahu is not only is Netanyahu a terrorist, I've said that Netanyahu is a war criminal and needs to be dragged in front of the Hague for all the bullshit he's done, even prior to 10/7. I would absolutely not agree with you on the second part that we shouldn't scapegoat or or blame all of the Jews for Netanyahu. Now, the Israeli government, that's another issue. But labeling it Jews, no, I have to disagree with you on that part. I remember when Big Macs had much more meat and the dollar special price wars with Burger King's $1 Whopper. And then, of course, there's Wendy's with where's the beef? So, my daughter puts sriracha hot sauce on everything. I mean, you should see me when I get a thing of pho. I will sit there with the sriracha and sit there. So, yeah. Netanyahu's evil. Jews are not evil. There are some evil Jews, but not all of them. And I would argue that most of us aren't. Most of us know and have learned our lessons. There are people, I have seen videos of Israelis out there referring, and the way that some Israelis, the ones who likely still support Benjamin Netanyahu, the way that some of them refer to the people who are Palestinians, they've learned nothing from what happened to us in the 40s and 30s. They've learned nothing at all. But to say that that's one of the problems I have with Donald Trump is his being an anti-Semite, his blaming all of Jewry for his past and future loss. It's almost like he knows he's going to lose and is preemptively blaming Jewish people for it, which puts all of us at risk. Because if his listeners will listen, as I said to the person who called in, was it Manasseh, on Monday? One of the things that I told him was that, his listeners will hear what he says. It doesn't matter what the intent of what he says was. I mean, I refuse to believe that his intent is anything more than just to cover his own ass. But when his listeners, when the Proud Boys heard stand back and stand by instead of stand down, then they took that stand back and stand by as, yes, sir, we're standing by for you. We're ready to take whatever orders you want us to give us. Then he says it's going to be wild, come down. So that was their cue to come down. So yeah, when Donald Trump says things like it's going to be the Jews' fault, it doesn't matter if he intended it to be, a call of action from to his supporters against us Jews. What matters is that the people who listen to him are, a lot of low-educated people who can be easily manipulated, and are easily manipulated because they're still supporting him. And they're going to take that claim that any potential loss will be the fault of the Jewish people, and then they're going to start coming after us. Another reason why we can't support Donald Trump for president is because of the fact that he will embolden even more anti-Semitism to go on over the course of this country, which is just amazing that we still have to deal with it. But where has Jackie and Roxanne? I don't know where Roxanne's been. I haven't sung "You Don't Have to Put on the Red Light." Those days are over. You don't have to sell your body to the night. Sorry. So no, let's see. I know Dan. I know some Jews, and they are people I love, even if they like Trump. Most of them hate Trump, as far as I know. Yeah, I mean, a vast majority of Jewish people. This is one thing that conservatives don't get. Conservatives refuse to understand why Jewish people tend to vote Democrat, let alone voting against Trump. But Jewish people tend to vote Democrat because we don't want to vote for the party that endorses extremist right-wing evangelical Christian types who want to enforce their laws of Christianity on our country via our system of secular laws. And they don't understand that. They think, oh, well, we're more supportive of Israel. I mean, if you listen to some of the ones on the extreme left, no. They'll tell you that the difference is not enough to make any sort of difference. I mean, I disagree with that, but clearly there are leftists far to the left of me who side themselves with Hamas, which is no better than siding yourselves with Nazis. at protests. So, which is another point I made on Monday. See, I think my grandpa had his views that don't align with Jews, but I think he was taught that way because of hatred of being so old. I like celebrating Rosh Hashanah. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? Apples and honey. What's not to like about apples and honey? And my grandpa was my mom's adoptive father, because the person who was my grandpa was an excellent human being and not racist. My mom's adopted father was racist. He was one of the ways that has said, oh well, if you have a racist dog, I'm like, no, you don't. Most people don't have racist dogs. Most people have dogs that pick up on the racism of their owners. And so when when he would see black people, my dog would start barking because he was the racist, not my dog. So, we got a caller calling in. Is this Big Hook?
Hi there. It's Big Hook.
So I recognize the area code already. So there you go.
I should say. Yeah. So I'm just curious, how much evidence is necessary for them to finally be convinced that Trump is a POS? I mean, Kelly now has basically come out and said, yes, he's a fascist, and he's going to take you down a dark road that you can never come back from. We have our own scholars like Rachel Maddow who have put out stuff. We've had Ken Burns, who's put out specials about our relevant history where we're trying to deny the Holocaust and we're supporting the Nazis and everything else, and how we've discriminated over the past and whatnot. And we still haven't come to a consciously available solution to admit that we got to change our ways, because we're repeating the history of before. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, there's just a certain mindset amongst many radical right-wing conservatives that Trump has managed to latch a hold on, that basically says that apologizing for any wrongdoing or just accepting that you might have done something wrong or supported the wrong person or whatever, it just admitting you're wrong is not something that you do. It's like a sin. Like you only admit sins to God or whatever. So if you're not in the confession booth, or if you're not confessing your sins to Jesus, then you shouldn't admit it to anybody else. Like, and it's like these people are just, I think they are incapable of admitting that they've backed the wrong horse, with the exception maybe of if the main horse that they're backing, i.e. Donald Trump, says, well, you supported him before, but don't support him now because he's a traitor against me and not loyal to me, then of course they'll support Trump in doing that, because basically they're lemmings. I don't know how people get to that point. I don't know how people can allow themselves to be so manipulated and just to not have the ability. I mean, when I do something, in the rare times that I've done something where I've had to apologize to my kids for doing something wrong, I apologize to my kids, because like there was one time where it was a silly little thing, but I was insistent, and it's so silly. I was insistent that Thomas had this particular toy that came in a set, and he was like, no, it didn't. And I was like, no, I swear it did, and you lost it. No, it didn't. And he was really young at the time, my oldest one. And I found a video with it, and I was like, oh, see, here's the video of what you had. And then, of course, the video showed all the toys that came in the group, and it was like, oh, that particular toy was not in the set. And he was like, see, I told you. And I looked at it, was like, you know what, Thomas, I'm very sorry. You were right, I was wrong. I should have, I shouldn't have been so insistent that you were wrong. I mean, it was a very small, tiny thing, but, to me, it's setting the example of where if you do something wrong to somebody else, you admit it, you own up to it, and you move on. And they don't have that gene that exists in them. I don't know. I think there are some of them that are.
Well, that's the thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, I'm one of those guys that says, you know what, you learn more from your failures than you ever do by your fluke successes, because you don't, that's how you learn. Trial and error. We figure out what works and what doesn't. How to get along with people is not it's not a trial and error thing. It's polite rules of society, and yet we seem to keep going backwards. It's just ridiculous. I get frustrated by it because, the forgiveness doesn't seem to be there, and people are buying the bullshit and doing stuff. I received an email from a friend of mine here, and he's a Trump supporter, and he says, "Oh, well, so if Trump is Hitler, then these people must be Hitler as well." And and he didn't exactly provide me with anything there that disputed the fact that they are almost the same. I mean, Bob Woodward said something. He said, Putin is really the new Hitler reimagined, because he is doing all the things that Hitler was trying to do. And if anything, Trump is more or less like almost the Goebbels of the lot, because he's supporting him in all the worst policies and beliefs and whatnot. I mean, you hear already. He said that if he gets into power, Social Security is going to be gone in 6 years. I mean, I don't understand. These people don't understand. They're going to bankrupt the nation. They're going to do everything, and then they're going to supposedly deport 20 million people.
Right.
I mean, this is insanity. This is insanity. You can't go with this. Like, you got to get your head checked, because this is a psychopath delusion that you can't live with. I mean, where is your food going to come from? Who's going to fix your house? Who's going to do any of those things that you call upon for a new generation of people with skills that they've learned in other countries that they bring here to bear that benefit everyone? I mean, I just don't get it anymore. I mean, you might as well just put the gun to your head and pull the trigger at this point if you vote for him. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
But they are again, they're so manipulated into believing that what he says is the gospel. I mean, these people have literally gone to, it's Trump, then God, then party, then country. Like, they put Trump first about everything else. They will make excuses for him. They will make exceptions for him. They don't care. If you saw that one, I think it was either the Tonight Show or the Jimmy Kimmel Show or something, where they went around and they were interviewing people, asking them how they felt about certain things that Biden said, and they were vehemently against the things that Biden said. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I misquoted it. That was Donald Trump that said it. And then they immediately turned around and made an excuse for the thing they were just recently critical of. It's just they
revert to cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I don't even know what the fix is, other than we have to just get more people out voting than they do, because I don't know how many of these people. You have a few people who did vote for Trump, back in the day, who are now saying, you know what, this is ever since January 6th happened, it's too far. His dictator from day one is too far. The tariffs are too far. Like, there are lots of things that examples of individuals who are like, you know what, I need to drop my political differences with the other side and then vote for the sanity and safety of our country. But there are a decent amount of people.
Go ahead. Yeah, but what gets me is this is Putin's wish list. He wants there to be absolute chaos.
Yep.
He wants the U.S. to fall apart. Like, can't you see that's what you're doing? You're basically taking Putin's how to blow up your nation and completely destroy it from the inside out, and doing it with glee. I mean, this is the other thing. But for example, like you were saying before, with the you tell them that it was with Biden, and then switch it over and say, oh no, I was wrong. That was Trump who said that. They make the same argument with the Kamala Harris and the code switching. They say, oh well, she changes her language when she's dealing with people from different areas, and it's like she's lived all across the country, including Canada.
Yeah.
You know, of course she speaks differently depending on who she's addressing and whatnot. You know, I mean, that's the sort of thing that's there. And you know, like I said, I just have had enough of it. They have nothing but talking points that are Russian sourced stuff, and it's like you're no longer an American. You're a fucking Russian traitor within our country.
I mean, do you remember during the 2012 elections, we had there was a time when Obama was caught saying something on a hot mic where after the election was over, he'd be more available to have more in-depth conversations with Putin or whatever, and the right wing of this country flipped their lids over the idea that President Obama might have been willing to have conversations with Putin, but politically it wouldn't be expedient to do it until after the election. And the Republicans were apoplectic about it.
Biden said that Obama was naive when it came to dealing with Putin. He kept thinking this is somebody that you could sit down and you could rationalize with him and tell him and figure out some solution to what was going on. But it was like, no.
Well, Biden was also naive about his
racist.
Biden was also naive about the fact that he would be able to come in as president and be able to handle the Senate Republicans like he handled them before, thinking that it was the late 80s, early 90s, and not, the new Republican Party who would just work to stop everything he did ever. So yeah, there's some naivete on the part of Democratic politicians, absolutely. But my point was the fact that, that little bit of willingness to have a conversation with Putin was seen as being terrible. But now you have somebody who worships the ground Putin walks on, who is bending over backwards or forwards, depending on the night or whatever, to make sure that Putin is happy. And the Republicans now have no problem with it. They even talk and say wonderful things about Putin now. Putin is former KGB. They used to be somebody that, we would absolutely have there would be no arguments in this country beforehand if we were like, Vladimir Putin is a piece of crap and we shouldn't be siding with him. And it would be like, yes, that's good. That's good. We can agree on that. Now it's like, well, now maybe we should let Putin just have his way in Ukraine. Well, no, we're not doing that because it's absurd. If Putin came over here and said, I think that we should have Alaska back, and he invaded Alaska, would we just sit here and be like, oh, well, we don't want to start World War III, so we're just going to let him have Alaska? No, we would fight him back, and we would push him out of Alaska and retain our territory, and just like Ukrainians have absolutely every right to do. And what these Nimrod conservatives don't seem to understand is that we promised the Ukrainians, when they gave up all of the nukes that they had in their possession after the Soviet Republic split off, we promised Ukraine that if Russia got froggy, we would come in there and we would protect them. And if we don't do that, then our word means nothing, and nobody has any reason to believe anything we say at that point on. So.
Yeah, but the other problem is that we have laws on the books, but Garland isn't enforcing them. I mean, Trump is not supposed to be able to talk with other leaders behind our back. Once he's out of office, he no longer is supposed to have links to these people anymore. because he's going to interfere with, the international community being able to negotiate or deal with bad actors in a way that is effective. I mean, the sanctions to some degree have worked quite well against Russia and Putin. And estimates are, what is it? If the war continues for another 2 years, Putin will be completely out of money, as well as all the resources necessary to make any more of the bombs and the advanced weaponry anymore, because China doesn't have access to any of those materials anymore. They can make civilian versions, but that's about it.
Right.
And that's the thing. Why aren't we enforcing this? He's got FEMA people having their lives threatened by yahoos up in the hills who believe that they're going to take your land and strip mine it for lithium. This is crap. This is absolute crap.
It is. Well, one of the things, like with the thing
know.
pertaining to him talking to Putin, I believe that it happened, clearly. And it was reported in, I think, the Woodward book, right? That was reported by Bob Woodward. And one of the things that my problem with Woodward is the fact that he sits on these things to sell books instead of coming forward with it and be like, hey, I'm going to have this book, but in this book is this information. Maybe if Woodward would have came out with this information immediately when it happened, our Justice Department could have had a little more time to look into it. I don't know if there's any actionable...
Or better yet, had he said, okay, I'm going to sit on this for the public, but I'm going to give it to the Justice Department and have them deal with it.
Right.
Because they could have simply done that.
But I don't know how much information he had above and beyond just the statements of people within his circle. I don't know how much of that would be an actionable thing as it pertains to being able to bring convene a grand jury and do that. Now, when it comes to the other things that Donald Trump has been accused of, they should have been dealing with the records case for a long time, and they should have opened it up in perhaps a maybe more possibly friendly court than one down in Florida. Because they had the documents that he looked at and he revealed to the people in Bedminster, and that's a crime that took place in New Jersey, and so not in the same jurisdiction in Florida with this stupid idiot Cannon who got, who threw his case out based off of one dissenting opinion by one Supreme Court justice in a completely unrelated matter. So,
yeah, and can you believe it? Someone said that that she's in a possibility as being Attorney General for Florida. Somebody had submitted her name as a possibility. She isn't qualified to fucking run traffic court at this point.
No.
That's how stupid she is.
But just imagine how stupidly lucky. Nick, I see you calling in. I'll get to you in a second. The stupid luck that Donald Trump had, because there was 3 judges that could have taken the case in the pretrial hearing, and then the same 3 judges could have would have been in charge of the trial in the main portion of the trial, and his dumb luck got her for both things, which is a 1 out of 9 chance of happening. 7 out of 8 other times she would have been there only for 1. So the idea that that he got her twice is just ridiculously luck on her part.
Yeah, but rules of conflict should have applied because he appointed her. So, how can you say, that has no effect on whether or not she will give a fair and balanced ruling? That alone itself is, puts a really bad face on the justice system, that you allowed somebody who was appointed by the same criminal to judge the same criminal. That's just...
Well, that's also problematic as well.
As they say,
just don't
only
know.
in America.
Only in America. What the country, as Yakov Smirnoff would say. Anyway, I have another caller. Do you want to go in? Anything else?
Yeah,
parting
no
thoughts?
worries. Anyway, now you've had my rant.
There you go, Nick. You got
anyway,
the big hook rant. And you can have the fat man rant maybe a little bit. So
Okay.
thank you very much for calling in. Talk to you later, man. Have a good one.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
All right. So let's head on over to Nick from North Carolina. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for calling in. What you got?
I'm super excited. This election's what are we, like a week and a half away, roughly? 9 days, something like that?
Yeah, so the 13, I think, at this point, because it was 2 weeks from yesterday.
Oh,
so yeah.
Okay, we're close to, but we're basically there, and I'm really excited because everything kind of played out the way I sort of warned people back in 2020.
Uh-huh.
And so for like most of my family, everyone, they were pretty distraught about the results in 2020. And I was telling them that Joe Biden's presidency is going to be a blessing in disguise. Because when we had warned people back in 2020 that if Democrats come to power, all the different things that they're going to end up doing, at the time people dismissed it as, oh, that's just Republican talking points, it's a political rhetoric, it's not true, you're over-exaggerating things. And then they were proceeded to get back into power, and basically everything we had warned people about came to pass. And now everyone I know that was a staunch Democrat voting for Biden, everyone I know is voting for Trump now. The kind of people that I would have never in 100 years would have voted Republican. I've never seen anything like it, man. I mean, this is at the barbershop, at work, store, talking to people, my family, friends, everywhere I go. I'm talking, this is like in a black Democrat area. And I just don't think a lot of liberals are aware of what's happening and how much things have changed and what's about to go down on November 5th, man.
Well, where do you live? Where do you live at, first of all?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Okay, so you're in Minnesota.
Yep.
Now, I mean, of course, you have the idea that, just because you have friends that are saying one thing, I mean, other people have friends who may very well be saying something different. But so I'm guessing you're disagreeing with the idea that Donald Trump is the worst. Not you would say that Donald Trump is not one of the top 5 worst nominees for president ever. I guess you're supportive of Donald Trump, and so what is it that you think that Joe Biden did that proved you right, and that's basically said that that it's now going to be great for Trump in 2024?
Yeah, so the number one thing was when it came to immigration. I told everyone that if Democrats come into power, they're going to open that border and flood the country, because the Democrats, to their credit, they've come up with a strategy which, in a way, even though I think it's wrong, I understand the genius behind it, which is they've realized they're having a difficulty getting working class and white working class voters to buy into their ideas and their platform, right? And they realize, well, we can just circumvent that, and we have a quick shortcut. All we got to do is import a lot of illegal aliens, grant them amnesty, get them to right to vote, move them into particular swing states, and we can dominate politically. It's really
how long
to do it.
I'll cut you off for a second now. How long does it take from somebody to get from amnesty to citizenship and the ability to vote? How long does it take?
Okay, so it depends on which bill. So, for example, there are some bills that were put forward that they wanted to give people the ability to vote before they got the citizenship. So they would get amnesty, and they'd have to wait about 5 to 8 years to get citizenship, but then they'd be granted the right to vote within a year. So certain bills were put forward that had those stipulations put into it. And so that's obvious, because for the Democrats, it's really not about the citizenship. They could care less. They just
well,
want
I
to
mean, no, that's I don't know of any. Let me cut you off a second. I'm timing the callers in for 5 minutes. I gave you like a minute or so for free. Every time I cut you off, I'm turning off the timer because we do have other callers calling in. But according to this, what I found, someone who comes in for asylum after 1 year as an asylee, you can apply for lawful permanent resident status, also known as a green card. Once you have a green card, you must wait 4 years to apply for citizenship, which means you have to wait 5 years to be able to vote. Which would mean that everybody under
the current rules, yes, I agree. But what I'm saying is that if you look up the bills that Democrats have brought forward, that they've
like what? Do you have an
presented, the
example?
different amnesty bills they've done. So, for example, there was one in California, and then there was one back in I believe it's 2018 or 2017.
Wait, how does the California
that was
amnesty
presented.
bill? How does the California amnesty bill?
No,
California is not a swing
congressman
state.
or senator from California that presented it. But I know that the original bill, one of the amnesty bills back in 2018, there was another one after that, I believe in 2019 as well, that was brought forward. Both of them had stipulations to where the people would be given the right to vote before they had to get their citizenship. So their citizenship would be around 5 years or so wait, but they'd get the right to vote immediately once the bill was passed.
I don't believe that that's true at all.
And even Chris Matthews,
where'd you get that
Chris
information
Matthews
from? Because I don't believe that's the case at all.
Oh, you can just look into it. You can check it out. But this is something that's been commonly talked about. I mean, Chris Matthews, who used to work for MSNBC, pointed out this as well, saying that the Democrats are clearly using illegal immigration in the big picture to try to gain votes, and that the Chamber of Commerce and Republicans wanted illegal immigration for cheap labor. And that's why he's always made that argument as to why the illegal immigration situation has never been resolved, because both sides stand to benefit from it in different various ways. But the point still stands is that I warned people that when Biden would come in, he would open the border and flood the country. That's precisely what took place. And
well, let me cut you off. Let me cut you off for a second.
Okay.
Simply because of the fact that I don't believe Donald Trump's numbers. First of all, when it comes to immigration, and this is why. Donald Trump during COVID told Woodward specifically that he downplayed the threat, that he lied to the American public to let us know how dangerous COVID was. To the public, he said it was no worse than the flu. To Woodward, he said it was much worse than the flu. When it came to testing, he didn't want people knowing the actual numbers of people who were positive with COVID-19. He didn't want that optics, as they say. So when you had the situation of his you remember the Tulsa rally where he said, I've told them to stop testing. If you have more testing, you have more cases, which is of course stupid, because if you don't test, the cases are still there. They're just not revealed. So he didn't want us having those information revealed. But let me finish. Let me finish this point because it's important. So if Donald Trump is willing to lie to us about the optics and the numbers to protect his optics when it comes to the pandemic, why would I believe that he wouldn't lie about what went on or manipulate the numbers or the enforcement of border policy to make it in such a way that we don't know the actual numbers, that we would know the actual numbers that are people coming across the border? Donald Trump would not want us to know. He had no reason to try and stop people from, for example,
I hear you on that point.
I'm
so
still
now
talking.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm still talking. So when he tells us that immigration was X and the number of people across the border is X, why would I believe that? I mean, because he specifically has already told us that we should lie. So answer that question before you get into asking me the question.
Okay, so number one, it's not Trump that determines the numbers. They get reported by the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol, just like they get reported now. So, for example, I'm going to ask you a question. Are the rate of illegal border crossings higher or lower under Biden's administration versus Trump's?
Currently?
I'm asking you, yeah. I mean, if you compare Trump's 4 years versus Biden's 3.5 years, have illegal border crossings gone up or gone down since Biden's become president?
There was a time when illegal border crossings had gone up, if you want to, whatever you want to call it, legal border crossings. However, currently they are lower on a per month basis than what they were during Donald Trump. Furthermore, why did Donald Trump want? Why did Donald Trump?
After he shut down the border.
If border policy was so important, and fixing the border was so important, why wouldn't the Republicans want to fix it now? The bill that was written by the Republican senator from Oklahoma.
Oh, perfect. I'm so happy you brought that up. I'm so happy you brought up that bill.
Good.
Because that bill was terrible. For example, that bill allowed for more than 1.5 million people who wanted to enter the country legally to be allowed to stay there. What it also does is it would expedite the asylum process, which is nothing more than getting people the ability to stay here even faster. It did not address the mass, deportations that are required, especially when it comes to criminal legal aliens that have to be done immediately, in my opinion. And what else did it address the actual border wall? Well, of course, we're evaluating the merits of the actual bill. You believe the bill's solid. I don't believe it's solid. I don't think it actually.
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm sure that there are plenty of things in the bill that I disagree with, but when you have a government, when you have one side that controls the Senate and one side that controls the House, and one of those sides is the president, but you have to come to an agreement together to make a bipartisan bill. You have to come together and you have to give up a little to column A and give up a little bit of column B in order to get something that people are going to marginally like, even if they don't think it's the best thing possible. There may very well be flaws in the bill. What you think are flaws might not be in my mind. What I think are not flaws might be flaws in your mind, or whatever. But the point is that it was probably the most conservative bill that we were going to see. And
but you didn't need the bill. You didn't need the bill. You know
why? The president
because
can't.
I could tell you why. When Biden came in, he got rid of 95 of Trump's executive orders in regards to the bill. One of the things he got rid of immediately was the stay in Mexico policy, which was if you were seeking asylum in America, you would go to Mexico, and from Mexico you would apply. If approved, you'd be granted access into the country. He got rid of that policy immediately, along with
he tried to, but the courts came in and
said, hold on, I'll make a
down.
last point and you can respond. Just give me 2 seconds.
Sure.
The last thing you mentioned, remember how you said how border crossings have gone down now in the last 6 months to a year since the end of Biden's term? Why did that happen? Because Biden shut the border down. He didn't wait for Congress to pass a bill. The FBI had told them that they had warned them that terrorist groups are crossing the border. You can look it up. This is on record. It's not my opinion. It's a fact. And he then took action and shut the border down. So he could have done that any time in the last 3 years. He just chose not to. So my point still stands. He could have used executive orders. He could have used the Remain in Mexico policy. He decided not to. He did it maybe because he wanted to appease his base and undo whatever Trump did and just be reactionary, regardless of whether or not it was a good idea. But the point still stands. He could have done it early. He didn't. So the fault still remains. But the point still stands, I said to people in the beginning, he was going to open the border. He did. He flooded the country. He has. And the Democrats have no problem with that at all. If the Democrats had their way, there wouldn't even be any halt to illegal immigration. It's only an issue because the general population made it an issue. Otherwise, if no one said anything, the Democrats would keep it as it is. We saw the last 3 years where everything that was going wrong, Democrats used to gaslight us, telling us the economy is not as bad as it is, inflation is not as bad as it is, Biden's mental state is not as bad as you all think it is. You guys are just using cheap. Remember the cheap fake claim that people were saying about Biden when that video came out of him speaking at that fundraiser, and that people said, "Oh, that video is a cheap fake." And there were Democrats still trying to gaslight everyone that there was nothing wrong with Biden until the debate. And it was so bad. His performance was so terrible, there was not enough gaslighting they could pull on America. And they were forced to have to admit the guy clearly is in early stages of dementia, and it's obvious to everybody. And so what we witnessed is liberals in the media gaslighting the entire country about a whole host of issues. And now the chickens have come home to roost, and you guys are going to get the payback November 5th. The old principle in America has always been, if you're not satisfied with how things are politically, you vote the bums out, whether they're Republican or Democrat. That's always been the rule in America. It's always been that way.
All right. So I think I've given. I'm putting you on mute now. I've given you plenty of time to make your point. Here's the point I'm going to make. You didn't have to hang up. But here's the point that I'm going to make at this point, and we'll move on to the other callers because we have 2 other callers right now on the hold. And so the thing is this: you might want to say that Joe Biden had dementia or whatever. If Joe Biden has dementia, then what the hell does Donald Trump have? If dementia was the issue, like that's the thing. There's a lot of times when Republicans try and make a point or conservatives try to make the point. If such and such is an issue. They try to make such an issue, but then you can look right back at Donald Trump and see the issue is twofold. If mental capacity, if mental fitness is your issue with Biden, then why are you still voting for Trump? If you're still voting for Trump, then mental competency is not the issue. So you're trying to make an issue of something that's not an issue when it's your guy, because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. When it comes to the border issues, Biden could do certain things, sure. But what good does it do when you still have the existing problems of issues like, for example, not enough judges to be able to deal with all of the asylum cases to get them expedited and dealt with and run through? You can't, if you don't have the expenditure, the money to spend on those things, then you're not going to be able to deal with the problem of people coming in and declaring asylum and not being able to have their cases heard in a quick and expedited way. That's why you need Congress to act, because only Congress can spend money. President Biden doesn't have the authority to spend money. So when you try and say that, oh, it's the Democrat, which is, it's a bogus idea that the Democrats wanted to flood the country. There is no example of any legislation that I've been notified. And you can email me, liberaldanradio@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to deal with this on Monday if you want to come back on Monday and deal. Email me a link to the text of any bill that would have given people the ability to vote prior to receiving citizenship. And also how likely that bill was to pass. Because there are, frankly, people who put bills up for lots of things that never pass ever because it's the bill that it's their pet bill. They just throw the spaghetti at the wall and hope one day it sticks. So maybe one Democrat might have suggested that. How far did it get? Did it make it out of committee? Was it even allowed in committee? Did it have any other, supporters, or was it just that one person throwing up this bill up there that they throw up however many times they do? There are people on the left and right that do that sort of BS all the time because they want to say, oh, look, I did something. But you didn't really do something because you didn't seek to get the support of other people. You didn't seek to try and get, make a bill that was reasonable to pass. So, no, I'm not going to just accept the argument that Democrats want to have people voting before they become citizens. And as it stands currently, there is no way that anybody who was accepted in from January 21st of 2021, anybody who was allowed in there and granted asylum, which means you have to have asylum for the year. So once they get granted asylum, which takes longer because you don't have enough judges to deal with the asylum, then you have to be a citizen, a legal resident alien for 5 years, which means you would not be able to vote in the next election. So it doesn't help you in the next election. And there are a lot of people that come across the border who are social conservatives. And shockingly enough, I understand conservatives don't like to deal with, the fact that, people might do things for pragmatic reasons or empathetic reasons or whatever. But Biden doesn't limit his, actions based off of what party he is. Like, Joe Biden passed this infrastructure plan that included the expansion of broadband internet across the country, especially in rural areas. Rural areas are never going to vote for Biden or for Vice President Harris, but it was the right thing to do, so we did it. And then guess what? You have Louisiana's Governor Jeff Landry, who announces this, we're launching Gumbo 2.0. It's bringing broadband across the state. Not once did he mention Joe Biden, but he'll criticize Biden for passing the same legislation that enabled him to do what he's taking credit of doing. So, no, I reject out of hand all of the arguments that were made by the previous caller. I think second caller is Khalil. First one is probably, I guess, now Nick from North Carolina. Is that you?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Liberal Dan? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you, Nick? Good to talk to you.
Hey, man, I want to tell you, man, as a fellow YouTuber, I want to tell you something. I think you're doing a fantastic job. We are a little bit different when it comes to politics, but I want to tell you before we even talk about anything, and this is just a lighthearted. You guys been really talking about a lot of stuff tonight, and I want to tell you, man, I've been shooting emails out and really been enjoying your show, man. So,
appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to ask you, just leaning a little lighthearted into it before I ask you a second question.
Sure.
Why do Democrats always lose the Republican versus Democrat baseball game, man?
Because I was never elected to the House. That's why. That's why. Because or maybe it's just because of the fact that Democrats have a little bit of ADHD and they get a little distracted and can't keep their eye on the ball.
What would be your position? Like, let's say you get elected. What's your position on the field there?
I'd probably at this point I think I'd be able to outpitch any of the Republicans that are out there. So I wasn't a pitcher when I was younger, but I think I could pick up the position of pitcher simply because of the fact that at the moment my knees are kind of shot. I wouldn't have to move as much as I think I would have to. Now, otherwise I'd probably just be DH. until I lose some weight. Then if I got into better
like
shape,
that.
I'd probably want to be shortstop because that was just my favorite position when I grew up. So
Yeah, I always play shortstop or second base, man. And I'm gonna tell you, man, it was tough, man, because all my teams sucked growing up. So that's
I'll tell
hard,
you,
you know?
I was on a lot of terrible teams too, and I also had parents who really didn't support it all that much. So it was like, I had a game to go to, and I was just coming back from Boy Scout sleep a trip or whatever. Came back, I was like, Mom, make sure I'm up so I can go to the game. And then I woke up and the game was already over. I'm like, Mom, I wanted to go to the game too, and let my teammates down or whatever. But when it came time for my oldest son, and he was doing Little League for a bit, and I was definitely telling him, because I used to not understand what it meant. People would say, "Oh, keep your eye on the ball." Well, I had no idea how you did that. And then finally, in college, we were taking some softball classes, and I actually figured out, oh, keep your eye on the ball means follow the ball all the way to the bat as you're swinging. And
Where'd you go? If you don't mind, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I mean, when I was swinging, and then I was like, oh, look, I'm making contact with the ball and hitting it better than I ever did, because now I understood that. So when it came time for my son to start Little League, and he wasn't the fastest kid, but he moved up from last in the order to first in the order, because when it was coach pitch, he would hit the ball all the time and get on first base, and then when it came time to kid pitch, he drew so many walks because he had a really good, of keeping your eye on the ball. Like I said, look, if it's between this here and here, you swing, otherwise you don't. So he did really well with it until it started becoming very competitive, and then they started, I guess, out. He was less interested in learning how to do better, and then COVID hit, and then everything just went out the window. But yeah. So are you going to ask me where I was raised, where I played?
Yeah. I want to mention one thing, but I want you to answer that. But I'm going to tell you something real quick. I think this factors in good to what you just said. So when I was growing up, man, I grew up in Zebulon, North Carolina, in a very small town. My family was tobacco farmers out here, and thank God I ain't got to do that no more. But I'm gonna tell you, man, my dad. So when I was growing up, he would give us tobacco sticks. You know what a tobacco stick is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's this piece of you would twine tobacco with this piece of wood, and it's about as big as if you can connect your in a circle, if you connect your middle finger to your thumb, it's about that big.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about, I don't know, 3 foot long. So we would throw rocks up and hit them with that stick, right?
Right.
So it would kind of train your eye to see it. So when the baseball, when we were in games, to me it looked like it was a basketball coming down the lane, because I was trained to hit those little rocks with that, So
that's a good point. It's a good way to train. So all right, so more serious points now. What you got? What you got? No problem. But what you got?
My question is this. Yeah, sorry to take so much time about that, but
don't worry about it.
Okay, so my question is this: do you feel like both sides? And I want to say this: I'm probably I'm a registered independent, but I'm a libertarian. So a lot of people on the right sometimes get pissed off at me about certain things, and everybody on the left is pissed off at me all the time. So, I'm saying, do you think the visceral hate that we're dealing with, do you feel like the media could calm it down a little bit? Or do you feel like, and I'm not talking about you and me and you on YouTube, we're doing the underground stuff. We're legitimately talking to people. I love what you're doing here. You're legitimately talking to people. I don't really care that me and you don't agree on everything. I'm sure there's a lot of crap me and you agree on. But it's very easy to focus on the things people don't agree on, right?
Right.
But what I will say is do you feel like, why why is there so much visceral hate on both sides? It's not just one side, man. It's not just one side.
Well, I mean, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to give you just kind of a broad kind of a thing of why I think that some.
No, do you agree with that?
I think there is hatred on both sides. I don't think it's the same. I'll explain. I'll explain part of that in a second, but and also have a question for you. So part of it, for example, I've seen Donald Trump make clearly anti-Semitic statements, and I'm Jewish. So I've seen him pander to anti-Semites. I've seen him, kind of, be less than willing to be full-throated in opposition to the people. He'll say some things, but his other actions will make it seem like, that his other, kind of denials or whatever didn't really ring true, so to speak. So in describing, some of the how there's anger on quote both sides in quotes, I kind of like it too. So you have, people. Let's just, for example, you have some people that are Nazis, neo-Nazis, whatever, clear anti-Semitic, clearly hate Jews. Those people hate me, want to see me dead. I in turn hate those people because they want to see me dead. One of them I think is rational, and one of them I think is not. I think it's rational to want to have ill will towards people who want to see you and everybody who's like you to die. On the other side, I don't think racism, hatred, bigotry of an entire religion, entire ethnicity, entire race, etc. I don't think that's reasonable at all. So I do think there's a lot of the times when people are trying to make the both sides, there's hatred on both sides argument. Some of that is can be seen as disingenuous. I'm not saying yours are, but I'm saying that some of them can be seen as disingenuous simply because of the fact that what's causing the hatred on one side is completely different than what's causing the hatred on the other side. Now, that being said, you're asking, do I think that the media could do a better job as to either, making people not hate as much, or not lighting a fire or fanning the flames, so to speak? I would maybe ask.
No, sir.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, sir. My question is, people can hate by themselves, right?
Okay. Right.
I feel like I'm not talking about you or me.
No.
Being the ground level guys that are legitimately having conversations like this, which I think is amazing. I'm talking about the accelerants, like MSNBC, Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC. I'm talking about the legacy media in general. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about all of them. I'm not talking about just the left.
I think the legacy media
Fox
can
as
be.
Well.
I think the legacy media can sometimes be a bit lazy when it comes to how it reports some things. There's many times where I've looked at the legacy media, where I've looked at the big media groups and saying, why did you word it that way? You could have worded it another way. It would have been so much better, so much more clear. But do you have again? You mentioned accelerants. So do you have an example of the media acting like an accelerant to spur people to have more hatred and vitriol and anger towards the other side, when they could have done it in a maybe better or different way that wouldn't have done that? Do you have an example of that?
I'm just kind of me and you kind of spitballing right now, and I would say, okay, for example, the story CNN ran with, that ran the underage kid or whatever, the kid that was in high school.
Which underage kid? Which underage kid in high school?
The Native American guy came in and started playing drums in front of him and stuff like that, and they ended up losing a gigantic lawsuit. Like, I'm saying, my question to you is, regardless of what side it's on, regardless if it's left or right, shouldn't, like, if me and you messed up in our personal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would have to apologize to people.
Well,
None
we don't
of
have
these
to,
guys,
but if we have integrity, we do.
Right.
But go on.
I agree with that 100%. But I agree with that 100%. but none of these companies ever do. So you guys, CNN lost how many? $200 and some million. I'd have to look it up. That's not a specific term number, but I know it was a large amount of money they lost. And there's never an apology issued. And my question is this: how is anybody legitimately, and I'm a news guy too, man, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, I'm going to tell you something. Every day I get up, I look at the news, I'm like, ugh, is this happening or not? Like, every day I look at it, I'm like, ugh, who's telling me this story? Do you ever get up and think, what is going on right now?
Well, that's a lot of times why I do
world.
try, and when I see a story, especially if the story is something that I don't necessarily think is, if I feel that I'm not getting the full story from one of the networks, I will go ahead and try and get it from other networks and try and track down those sources, or use sources that I think have been more reliable than maybe some of the headline grabbing type sensationalism that might take place in the media. And that being said, like with CNN, like I don't know exactly what period you're talking about with CNN lost a bunch of money, but the reason that CNN might have lost a bunch of money is it could very well be related to the fact that the person who is now in control of CNN is very right wing, and a lot of people who are on the left have lost a bit of their ability to want to watch CNN because they feel that the way that they're acting is being more lenient to, I guess, those on the MAGA side than they perhaps would like, and as such don't want to watch them anymore. Maybe that could be a reason why CNN lost money. I don't necessarily think. I have seen examples of people on a lot of the major networks.
It was Nick. Oh, brother, I looked it up while we were chatting. It was Nick Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
Nick
Sandman. That kid.
They lost
that kid. Okay.
$275 million.
Right.
But the thing is, and I'm not pointing this out, and I do want to tell you something, sir. I'm not pointing this out to make this like everybody on the left's bad and everybody on the right's good. I think the right just is bad. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying I feel like these major media moguls, they should be held to a certain journalistic standard. I mean, you're out here on ground level, like having conversations with people, doing the work, trying to figure things out. I can see you, man. You doing it. I love it. Why is the major media not doing that?
I mean, the major media is gonna, again, one of the problems with, I guess, the major media is simply on all sides is the fact that many of them are profit driven, and as such profits take precedence. And there are many times where I've seen MSNBC fail to report things properly or in the correct way, because if they did, people would be much more informed about what it is. Like, for example, when people start bringing up gasoline prices that we as the American people dealt with coming out of the pandemic. They're not once on MSNBC did I ever hear any discussion of, for example, the deal that Donald Trump made in April of 2020 that lasted into 2022 and beyond, to artificially restrict the output of oil from OPEC and Russia in order to help save the American oil and gas industry. Now, something had to be done, sure, but the deal that was negotiated artificially restricted the production of oil to a point that once demand started skyrocketing, the price of gas really started skyrocketing because the oil production didn't rise at a commensurate rate, and as such, it didn't happen. Not once on MSNBC have I seen anybody bring that up to any of the people trying to suggest that Biden was somehow responsible for the high gas prices that we saw. Only other people that I've seen, I've heard, I haven't seen Hal Sparks do it. I have heard that he has. The only other person that I've seen who's a creator who discusses that is Tommy, aka my dude, the My Dude channel on YouTube, and he's also just, I think, Dude on TikTok. So, I mean, there are. Why does MSNBC not report that like they should? In my opinion, I don't know. I wish a lot of times that the media would listen to kind of the lower levels. I wish specifically that the left, the Democrats, I've complained about this for a while, that we don't do a good enough job supporting what I would call the farm team, to get back to baseball lingo, to support the people who are at those lower levels, who are trying to work their way up, who are trying to, make a difference, and are trying to, spread the word and talk about things and counter, what the other side is saying, simply because of the fact that if we don't do that, then we're screwed. Just like we have, I think the Democrats have kind of a weak farm team when it comes to future presidential nominees after Harris. I think if Harris wins, there's 4 to 8 years to do something about it, but the Democrats have done, I think, a piss poor job of doing that as well. So, I mean, that's maybe a little bit off the point of the media, but as it pertains to the left side of the media, there's lots of things that I can point to where I think that they could do a better job, but I don't necessarily think that at least the left side of the corporate media do much of anything to help fan the flame, so to speak, which is why I kind of asked for an example, simply because of the fact that if I had an example, I could address it, but without an example of something
sure.
that you think...
I can give you another one if you'd like.
Sure.
If you got time. I don't want to interrupt your other callers.
No. I mean, I think we're fine. We do have Khalil on hold, but we I think Khalil...
Sure. If you need to get Khalil, man, you know what? I can call back next week or something. I just want to say hey to you, man, and I just want to let you know I think you're doing a great job.
All right, well, appreciate you, man, and I know you got Channelville. Maybe one time after the election's over, we could do kind of a cross-promotional thing and kind of do a dual chat at the same time.
Sounds great, man. I'll be tuning in to you, man. And you know what? Hey, I love your show, man. You keep rocking and rolling, brother.
All right, thank you very much, Nick. You have a good one as well.
Yes, sir.
And see, that's another example of where I think we can agree, or we can disagree on things, but still not be disagreeable. I think that was a reasonably good phone call. I think we had a good discussion, and it is what it is. Let's see, meet us, Sue. Gas is as low as $2.66 here in Denver. I think it was $2.34 in New Orleans when I got gas the other day. It was amazing. I was like, there you go. Good job, gas. But it did spike up there for a bit, and the thing is that the reason it spiked up a bit was because of Donald Trump specifically. And you'll have the media network saying, "Oh, well, presidents cannot." I've heard people on MSNBC say presidents can't affect the price of gas. Absolutely, they can with their policies. And when the president negotiates a deal with Russia and OPEC to reduce supply that doesn't take into consideration when demand increases, we gonna be screwed. And that's what happened. But they don't want to talk about that. They want to stick to their same, simple point. That's it. There are a lot of people, again, we've heard Donald Trump, I quote Donald Trump all the time, when he said that he loves the poorly educated. He did really well amongst the poorly educated. He still probably does really well amongst the poorly educated. And that's fine, but there are definitely a lot of other people who I think are more educated, either via schooling or just via life in general, and because you don't need a college degree to be smart. You can understand things without a college degree. But there's the willful ignorant. The willfully ignorant are the people that support Donald Trump. But there are things that you could say that you could explain to people and have people understand. Oh, maybe the idea of presidents don't set gas prices isn't exactly the full picture, and maybe if we could have more people understanding the fact that Donald John Trump did absolutely negotiate a deal that was terrible for the American consumer and help to push inflation up more than it would have been, and the fact that, hey, we have and we would probably been in a much better situation if gas production rose in a commensurate rate with the demand for gasoline. because at that point we would have seen the skyrocketing gas prices, which mean the cost to ship things would have been cheaper, which means inflation is not as bad. And we already, as a country under Joe Biden, we're doing, and still are doing, much better than the rest of the industrialized world when it comes to the inflation rate that we saw versus the inflation rate that they saw. Why? Because Democrats fix problems, Republicans create problems. I believe this is Khalil. Is this Khalil? Am I right?
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today, Khalil? What's going on?
Pretty good. Nothing much. I am going to Richmond on Monday, and I went to see a movie called Terrifier. Have you seen it?
What's it called? Terrifier?
Yeah, Terrifier 3.
Okay, I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's a good movie, but matter of fact, I've also found some other stuff out. It could be related to politics. Back in the 70s and the early 80s, they didn't do much for, like, protecting people or animals, particularly animals on movie sets. Mm-hmm. You know that?
Right. Because you now see the messages at the end of the no animals were harmed during the filming of this movie or whatever, but yeah.
I found out in the movie George of the Jungle, Tarzan, the live action one, the one where the animals were actually harmed by actual guns. I found out that all those guns were smashed. You know what I'm talking about? I
had not heard that.
Because basically I was told that when you have old school guns, and those were old school rifles, even though the movie was made in the 80s, the guns were older than that. And I was told when you have old school rifles with real ammo and you smash it, I was told it's going to spark and burn when you have real rounds in it. Mm-hmm. Like Winchesters and all those Henry rifles. I was told when you have an actual round in them and you smash them, and they'll ignite. Did you know that?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, but basically, I was trying to find that scene, and matter of fact, because it would have made me feel better about what happened to the animals. Because I like when things are misused, I like to see them get destroyed. Things are misused by people to harm people or animals. But yeah, basically, they smashed them all, and I'm hoping that I can. What is it? I'm still hoping I can do the gun for guardrail thing. You know,
I was just about to bring that up. I was like, that's probably one of the reasons why you're behind the whole guns for guardrails things, because you see guns being used for bad purposes, and you want to repurpose them for good purposes, which I would love to see it take hold. If Yen, my friend Yen, wins in the 2nd Congressional District of Florida, maybe I can push that as an issue that she could push as a freshman member of Congress. I'm sharing Yen's issues page to both streams just to make sure everybody has that. Again, somebody I personally know, but I do want, I do think we could definitely get some people to start, maybe spreading that information on social media, get her, some more traction for the end. Because again, I think Florida is a state that has a potential to see some shocking things simply because of the fact that they have abortion on the ballot, and as such, it's going to bring out pro-Roe folks. Roe-vember.
Well, maybe I can. I'm going to a thing called the Industry Night, and it's going to be in Richmond, which is a white-collar city. Maybe I'll meet some police officers I can talk to about that, and I could spread it not just in Richmond, but other parts of Virginia and other parts of the planet.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get police officers to get behind it and basically say all of the guns that they confiscate from crimes, once they're done with that and have no longer use for them, they melt them down and put them into guardrails. I mean, and you'd think that might be something that the police officers might be more than happy to, get behind. And I think it's a great. Again, I've said it's a great idea.
I consider people who are just who don't want gun control, but don't want guns destroyed from criminals, or don't want guns destroyed from people who are willing to turn them in. To me, those people are who I would consider gun nuts. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily someone that opposes gun control, but someone who opposes gun control but doesn't want to do anything to actually help the situation. Those are gun nuts, in my opinion. Gun fetishists.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are people who are just absolutely obsessed with having guns, owning guns, and I'm not sitting here trying to advocate to have people's guns taken away from them if they're law-abiding citizens. I just think that it should be, not necessarily easy to get as they are. We need to get rid of all the loopholes. We need to get rid of, bump stocks and other types of, things that make mass murder easy. Joe Biden, back when he was running for president, back then was like, "What's wrong with having a shotgun and defending your house with a shotgun?" So, I mean,
Right.
no argument there. So,
And then the other problem I find is the people. Like, I was on YouTube and I said, be content with your rights to bear arms. If you don't want gun control, then come up with something instead of complaining about people destroying their own firearms and complaining about the government destroying firearms that have been from criminals. Come up with something better.
When people have like gun buyback programs, conservatives pitch a fit, and I'm like, why? Nobody's forcing you to sell your gun, but they're offering, if you want to sell this gun, we'll buy it from you, no questions asked. Boom, there you go, done. Like, why? I don't understand why any conservative would have a problem with the idea of gun buyback programs. It makes no sense whatsoever. But hey,
it makes me mad too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's why, and the reason they keep getting away with it is because people keep deflecting when you talk about it. That's why they keep getting away with it.
That's always going to happen. They say, "Oh, well, I'm going to make a good point about this." "Oh, well, what about this?" And then they'll change the subject because they can't handle it. They'll just pivot to next topic, because they'll never. That's one of the keys of conservative debate, is to just keep moving from subject to subject to, confuse people and to make sure that people just, can't get a good answer on any particular one point. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate talking with you.
I appreciate talking to you as well, and I hope you enjoy yourself in Richmond and let us know how it goes. And are you early voting or voting on Election Day?
I'm not sure yet.
All right, well, just make sure and get your vote out there. Make sure your vote counts, because everybody needs to make sure to cast a ballot. So appreciate you. Have a good one. Enjoy your trip, and I will talk to you later. Have a good one, Khalil.
Me too.
All right, bye-bye. Bye. All right, everyone. Khalil, friend of the show. Glad to hear him calling in. I think his idea for guns into guardrails is not just good but catchy. Like I think it would be a great thing to implement. Be able to have, we're going to make these guardrails on this infrastructure, and the metal that was used is at least in part obtained from melted down firearms that were confiscated from crimes, this, that, the other. So things that were used previously to cause harm are now going to use to protect people. I think it's a good idea. I think somebody should run with it. If I was in Congress, I would run with it. I would absolutely propose the plan. But other plans for me, I suppose, and I'm not going to be serving an elected office anytime in the near future. So, as our friend says, or not so much friend, but
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. I had to search for it real quick, otherwise that's why I didn't play it immediately. Let's see. See, it's from the Twitch chat. Might always have the same talking points. That's true. Definitely the sale to say exact thing. Great at parroting Fox News and Newsmax. Easy to lose interest, but love Liberal Dan Radio. Thank you, Or Villaby, for loving the show. Appreciate you. Hey, Teresa, good to see you. Let's see. I think media went to shit because the fairness doctrine was abolished under Reagan, and other lovely gift from that turd. Probably a good point. Wish I saw that while I was making the point to Nick. It's just gotten slowly worse and more untrustworthy, less about telenews, more about getting those ratings no matter what. And that was kind of my point with saying that because it's a corporate media, the corporation is always going to have the first and foremost where they want to make sure that they get the bills paid. So the ability to profit is more important to them than the ability to tell the truth. Now, unfortunately, I think for them as NBC, you had a lot of times where they are telling the truth, more so than Fox, definitely more so than Newsmax or OAN or whatever other bullshit media things are out there. But I still think that there are definitely times where they could do much better. And unfortunately, I think some of it may be corporate profit related. Some of it may simply just be the fact that maybe they think that they're going to go over people's heads with it. But you can simplify, like the oil issue that I was talking about, down to very simple points. And it's funny because when the article that I used for that to show people this is what Donald Trump did, it comes from a Fox News article. So sometimes Fox News can be useful, because if I shared it from a PBS or an NPR or MSNBC or any other type of article that might have brought up Donald Trump's negotiation with OPEC and Russia, conservatives would immediately just discount it out of hand. Now, it's harder for them to do so. Some still will, because there are some people who think that Fox News is now on the left too, because, they reported Arizona, I guess, for Biden before anybody else. Shockingly enough, they were right about something, right? Let's see, Seha. What's up, Seha? Good to see you. Holy crap, it's Seha. I agree with that to a point. A family of 3 to 5 vehicles change oil once every 3 months. A barrel of oil can be shipped right to your garage. I guess so. It used to be if they would pay you to take the barrel of oil, right? Because oil prices was dropping so low because of the price war between OPEC and Russia, which is why I make sure to say Donald Trump had to do something. He just didn't do the right thing, because his solution was worse than the fix. As he would always say about the pandemic, he would say the cure can't be worse than this disease. Well, his cure to the oil prices dropping ended up being worse than the disease, because it caused oil prices, and as such gas prices, to skyrocket to points where we were paying a ridiculous amount of money at the pump. Another funny thing that happened one time, I wish I would have kept this guy's phone number. Back when I ran for Congress in 2004, the 1st Congressional District was basically a good chunk. There was like parts of New Orleans, like it was very gerrymandered. There was one corner of a street where if like this was the corner, like this and this, or this and this were part of one district. This and this were part of the other district, and one of the districts was connected by the street, and the other one connected across the Mississippi River. Like, that's how ridiculous the gerrymandering was, where you could be at different corners and be in 2 different congressional districts. Not as bad as one of the Philadelphia gerrymanders, when you could cross 4 city blocks and go across 3 congressional districts that way. That was also BS. But we've talked about gerrymandering a lot before. But anyway, most of the district at the time was like some of Jefferson Parish, some of Orleans Parish, and then you had the 3 parishes north of Lake Pontchartrain, i.e. St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, and Washington Parish. And so I was campaigning all over the place. I was going to fairs, talking to people, trying to make sure that people, understood you do have another alternative running other than Bobby Jindal. We can get to that. If Donald Trump says what somebody said he does, I'll have a lot of stuff to talk about in the Trump term, if there's another Trump term, just on the Department of Health. But I was up on the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain campaigning for Congress, and one of the people, I was like, one of my main issues, and nobody's making this an issue, is coastal restoration and hurricane protection. And this is in 2004. And one of the people, I clearly remember him saying, well, that type of issue is not really relevant to us up here in the North Shore. We don't really care about coastal restoration and hurricane protection. I said, you'll care about it when gasoline hits $4 a gallon. And he was like, oh, that'll never happen. I wish I would have taken his phone number right then and there, so I could have called him a little bit more later, and been like, hey, remember me, the guy running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District, and you told me that gasoline prices would never hit $4 a gallon? And well, looky here, gasoline prices absolutely did hit $4 a gallon and above in New Orleans, let alone other parts of the country, because Katrina and Rita, and I think it was Wendy as well, the third one, Katrina and Rita, both just completely screwed oil production and caused a big hit, at least in the short term, to make gasoline prices go through the roof. One of those times where I wish I would have been like, hey, give me your phone number, because I want to call you when it happens, because it was no doubt that it was going to happen. We had Ivan take place in 2004. That hit Florida, but then Katrina hit the next year, and well, you know, we all know what happened with Katrina. One of the things, though, is that, I was talking about Bobby Jindal. Bobby Jindal was the person that I was mainly running against. There was like four other people in the race after Steve Scalise dropped out. And I was like, look, Bobby Jindal is running on one of the cheesy campaign ads that I had. Do I still have it? Do I still have that uploaded? No. Hold on. Commercial. No. I don't know. I thought I had uploaded it to the files, but maybe I didn't have it. But anyway, this particular case, this particular ad, it was like, Bobby Jindal is standing on his healthcare record. That's because he doesn't want anyone to pick it up and look at it, because his healthcare record was abysmal. As head of the Louisiana Department of Health, he was put in as this sort of wunderkind who could do magic, and all the magic that he ended up doing as head of the Louisiana Department of Health was he had a deficit. He had a $200 million deficit he turned it into a $20 million surplus. And he was running on the fact that, it's such a good thing that he turned a deficit into a surplus. Well, a surplus, it means that those are funds that should have been spent on people's health care, but it was not spent on the health care of individuals. Why? Because he wanted to say, I run a surplus. Also, you had the circumstances where he shut down local clinics in rural areas, making it harder for people in rural areas to get the health care that they needed, and instead they had to wait until it became more serious and then would go into the big cities. And you already know that the people in the rural areas who might very well be conservative, and especially in New Orleans, especially in the 1st Congressional District, those people fled New Orleans in the Great White Flight because they didn't want to go to New Orleans in the first place. They wanted to flee New Orleans because they didn't want to be anywhere near the black people, because the Great White Flight is based in racism. So now these people had to go to, had to then either go to Baton Rouge or New Orleans to get the health care that they needed because they closed their local clinics. But Bobby Jindal was somehow wonderful and good for the state of Louisiana. Actually, you'll find people now who are conservatives who will now speak ill of Bobby Jindal because now it's popular to do so. I can only imagine. That should probably be my thing. I should probably call in a Jeff show tomorrow. I was like, I heard something about that Bobby Jindal is on the short list of people to run the Department of Health federally if Donald Trump becomes president. Is that something you agree with Donald Trump? Because the one thing that me and Jeff Carrere disagree, most things we disagree on, but the one thing we typically agree on is the fact that Bobby Jindal was a terrible governor for the state of Louisiana. So I'm sure his response would be, oh, well, it's better than anyone else that Vice President Harris would put on. In fact, now I have to call in to see if I've called my shot. So, anyway. Nick, you got to go in 5 minutes? I'm sorry. Did I give enough rants to you today? We did have a big hook rant, so there's that. Surrender Monkey, Trump's term is almost guaranteed. Prison term, that is. Cha-cha. Let's see. We are so gerrymandered, Jeff says. The 2 reps don't know we are. Pretty much. The container, and then they changed the districts. Then there's somebody, I think Garrett Graves, somebody else who has been touted as being a potential on a short list for one of Trump's cabinet spots. He was basically gerrymandered out of a job because they basically made one of the other congressional districts in Louisiana a majority-minority district to allow Democrats to potentially get a second seat in the House from Louisiana, as it should be, because we're a third to a half Democrat. So, let's see, the container, like a 5-quart jug of oil, is harder to store than the barrels that contain 55 gallons. You have to box the quarts of oil and design the jugs. The drum, you just put oil in a drum. Okay. Let's Scroll down. So we're voting early Saturday. Hands and arms in the shape of a V at my thighs. Boom, MFers. Good for you, Cynthia. Hopefully you can help turn Texas blue. I mean, I think there's a bigger shot of Florida turning blue than Texas turning blue, but I mean the polls with Cruz, I mean, I think he's running as effective of a campaign as you could against Ted Cruz, but just I don't trust Texas. It is what it is. Oh, we got another caller, 336. So did you put your name in the chat? Don't know if you have. We're going to go ahead and just go ahead to you, area code 336, and hope we're not making a mistake. Thank you very much. What's your name? Where are you from?
Yes, how you doing, Dan? It's Joe.
Hey, Joe. What's going on? All right, you have.
I'll
give you your 5 minutes too. I'm fine with it. If you want to help prove me wrong.
I'm just listening to the conversation here. What's happened, Dan? What is your caller there? Put a gun to our head? I mean, what's going on? And yes, Social Security will be bankrupt in 6 years because it's going broke. Yes, not because Trump is going to eliminate it or abolish it, because it's mismanaged, and it's been mismanaged since its inception. So what kind of points are being made here, Dan? I'm very shocked that you're allowing this.
Do you think that Donald Trump has the desire or to save Social Security? Do you think he will save it or try and save it, or do you think he'll let it go the way of the dodo?
Well, I think every president, Dan, has been trying to save it, or they say they're going to save it, and they've done nothing. He didn't do anything to save it his last 4 years that he was in. Biden has done nothing to save it. Harris doesn't have a plan to save it. So, and we can go on and on and on for presidents prior to that. Don't you agree?
I think there has been some mismanagement, sure, that we could blame on this is probably one area where the both sides argument is okay, but I would trust a Democrat more than I would trust a Republican when it comes to the desire to save Social Security, because a lot of times the Republican/conservative fix, in quotes, to save Social Security would be the privatization approach, which would be terrible, at least in my opinion. So
possibly we can agree on that. I don't know, but they have to do something, because I paid into it, and I'm not going to get a chance to collect it. I mean, because it's going bankrupt. It's going broke. So something has to be done to fix it. Now, as far as Trump wanting to be a dictator, he cannot be a dictator per the Constitution. He can't suspend the Constitution. That's not going to happen. You have the three branches of government. It's not going to happen. So I don't know where this dictator stuff is coming in. I don't know where.
I'll tell you where it's coming in. I'll tell you where it's coming in. Let me explain. It's coming in simply because, A, he said he wants to be dictator at day one, and people can say, oh, he was just joking, but Donald Trump many times has also said he doesn't joke. But if you have a Congress that is willing to just do whatever Donald Trump does, any of his agenda, so if they're willing to pass anything that they want him to pass and are not going to be a check and balance on his power, if you have a Supreme Court that's going to, well, they've basically given him carte blanche to do anything he wants within his administration, because any communication, according to the horrible Supreme Court ruling between him and his Department of Justice or anybody else in the administration, is now deemed to be exempt from any sort of subpoena. So he could basically do whatever he wants and claim executive privilege, and as long as the communications are done within the realm of between departments of the executive, then he could do whatever it is he wants, and as long as you still have the same makeup of the Supreme Court, you're going to have people who are just going to go with him and support those things that he wants. So he may not be a true actual dictator by name, but he'll be a de facto dictator because he won't have any of the checks and balances that are supposed to exist on the branches of government on his activities, because the Supreme Court won't do anything about it, the House won't do anything about it. So if both other branches of government are just going to lay down and surrender their authority to Donald Trump to let him do whatever it is he wanted to do, what difference is that between an actual dictator by name?
Because he takes an oath to the Constitution. You're forgetting one important element of our government, the Constitution.
Who enforces that oath? Who enforces that oath?
We the people do. We the
how
people.
how
We
do
the
we
people.
do it? How do we do it if he can't if he has executive privileges, assumed executive privilege for everything he does within the realm of him being president? Then who is going to come after him and get rid of him? Do you believe that if he violates his oath of office, that any of the Republicans in the Senate are going to be like, oh well, we'll go ahead and vote to convict him on articles of impeachment? No, they're not going to do that because they've already proved that most of them have no spines and are unwilling to do that because of the actions of January 6th. But the point is that his oath, he doesn't want people. He doesn't want the people who he puts into positions of power, like his cabinet heads or whatever. He doesn't want them to have an oath to the Constitution. He wants people to have an oath to him. That's why you see Project 2025, which he claims, oh, I'm not involved with that, but we've gone over several examples where the two plans are pretty much Project 2025 and then Agenda 47, which is Project 2025 for dummies. But
okay, Dan, let me ask you one question then, Dan.
Sure.
Let me ask you, what during his last presidency, what did he do that proved him to be anything like a dictator? What did he do? He stepped down as president.
He had there was the one that if we believe generals, which I tend to want to believe a general, somebody who served the country honorably. He said he wanted to have more generals that were like Hitler's generals. That's the new thing that came out. He wanted to have a military parade in his honor. He wanted people gassed and shot at for who were protesting by a church so that it can hold his Bible upside down.
Come on, Dan. Come on. But he's still not a dictator. He can, look. You can hate his personality. You can hate his tweets. And he does say things off the cuff, and he does say a lot of things that are bizarre. Sometimes he does need to keep his mouth shut. But look, many presidents have done that throughout the years, also. But the point being, Dan, we have a constitution. He can't be a dictator. He's not going to be Adolf Hitler and promote National Socialism. That's not going to happen in a constitutional republic. Come on.
In term one, he had guardrails in his administration. You had people who he appointed who actually stood against some of the things that he wanted to do and kind of tried to guide things into the right area. Also, for the first term of his presidency, for most of his presidency, he did not have the Supreme Court that is as it is currently made up. Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't die until the end of his fourth year in office, and hypocritically, Mitch McConnell, who said that we shouldn't be appointing people to the Supreme Court during the last year of a presidency, which basically meant that Barack Obama could not appoint Justice Scalia's replacement. We have the same situation where he went back on that idea and then allowed Donald Trump to name Ruth Bader Ginsburg's replacement. So now you have a Supreme Court that is more likely to be able to you have the Supreme Court that's more likely and more willing and more able to just kind of bend over backwards or forwards for him as he might want. Furthermore, during the second 2 years of his presidency, the Democrats did take back the House, and as such, when they took back the House, they actually implemented a check on his power, which prevented him from perhaps doing things that he might want to do. If Donald Trump wins the presidency this time, I guarantee you that there's going to be a fully controlled Republican House and a full Republican Senate, and the Supreme Court as it currently existed, as it existed at the end of his presidency. That Supreme Court has made several rulings that, including the one about his immunity and his inability to have his communication subpoenaed if they are between him and members of his administration.
Dan, if we get that, if the Republicans get that, Dan, and they get everything you just said, guess what? Then if the Republicans fail in fixing this country, then guess what? 4 years from now, you got one hell of an issue to stand upon to convince everyone to elect a Democratic president then, okay? Because then we failed the American people.
I don't believe that there is enough people within the conservative / Republican / MAGA movement who have not already flipped sides and basically are standing opposed to Donald Trump. I don't believe that there's that many people who would be willing to stand up and say, you know what, we screwed up. We need to quickly flip the House back in 2026 and then get new leadership involved. I don't believe that's going to happen. I don't see
We have
people.
a country, Dan. We have voters. You have Democrats out there. You have 80 million Democrats. Come on. You go to the polls. And I know Republicans would switch. They would, because a lot of people aren't voting for Trump now even, but I'm just saying, if they don't fix this country and he runs it into the ground like you're claiming he's going to, and he gets rid of Social Security, then guess what? 4 years from now, Vance is not going to be president if he decides to run. We're not going to have anybody to run or a platform to stand upon. But I don't think that will happen. I think America will be switched. I think our economy will be jump-started again, and just like when Trump was president last time. And
why do you think the economy would be jump-started?
Immigration. Yes.
Trump implemented a form of tariffs. Wait, Trump implemented tariffs. I've turned off your timer. Trump implemented tariffs that harmed the farmers so badly that they needed to take emergency action to save the farmers that those tariffs harmed. These new tariffs that Donald Trump is proposing are like those, but on crack. Are tariffs acceptable, and can they be used in certain circumstances? Sure. I have no problem with the general idea of a tariff in particular circumstances. The idea of placing a 200% tariff on imported goods, that's going to make the cost of many, if not all of those goods to skyrocket, and will not be good for the American consumer. So I don't know
How
why
are costs
you...
now, Dan? How are costs now? They're not too good, are they?
Inflation has been, and again, as we've covered earlier in the show, inflation has been better in the United States as opposed to every other industrialized country, because we've dealt with the inflation better than everyone else has. Inflation was going to happen with the supply chain issues, inflation was going to happen, especially with Donald Trump's horrible negotiated plan between OPEC and Russia that we've already talked about.
Yes.
So yeah, inflation was going to happen coming out of the pandemic, and that because of the situation that we were in and that Donald Trump left us in. I don't believe that the whole, a lot of people want to use anecdotal evidence. Well, I lost my job. Well, I lost my full-time job during Trump's presidency, and I gained my current full-time job during Biden. So in that case, I would have to say that my life has become significantly better under Biden than under Trump. And there's there are a lot of economic factors out there that do show the economy overall is great. Unfortunately, some of the problems, the ones that conservatives often rely on and run on, are issues like, the stock market. Well, under Republicans, when the stock market is doing well, look at how great the president is doing because the stock market is doing so well. The stock market is doing really well under Biden, and guess what? Nobody's giving Biden any credit for that, who normally give Trump credit for that, because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. And we have situations where you have people who have admitted in these big corporations that they have specifically raised the prices on a lot of these goods because they can get away with it, because people believe that it's Biden's fault and it's not their fault, and as such they can take those actions and be okay, they'll just blame Biden and not us. Well, guess what? Maybe we should be doing a little more blame on the corporate greed that is coming to place, especially on food issues that are rather price inelastic, and as such, if you increase the price on those things like eggs and milk and bread and necessities that you typically buy at a grocery store, the ability of you to say no, I can't buy this week is slim to none. So as such, the demand doesn't change much once you have when prices go up, and these people know that, and they really know that their people are going to be fooled into thinking that it's not their fault. I'm blaming. No, the consumer has no option in choosing some of these goods. So the consumer is going to have to buy the eggs. The consumer is going to have to buy the milk. The consumer has to buy the bread. I'm blaming the corporations that are charging these exorbitant rates. And then when one of the candidates of the two major candidates running for president says, "Hey, we're going to try and clamp down," and they're like, "Oh, she's a fascist now. She's terrible. Well, they call her fascist and a communist at the same time, which is bizarre. But that's...
Well, if Trump would have said it, they would have said that. What would they have done to him? Just one more issue: the immigration problem we have in this country. You have 20 to 25 million people that are undocumented. They come into this country illegally. They broke the law. Simple as that. They broke the law.
It's not illegal to declare asylum. So a lot of the people who are here declaring asylum aren't necessarily here in violation of the law. So I'll just make sure to put
asylum.
that caveat. I'll just put that caveat on there. But there are people who do cross the border for illegal reasons, like human trafficking and drugs and stuff like that. And
Right.
and under President Biden, the amount of captures of people crossing the border with drugs has gone up. Why is that? Because Biden is doing his job as president to stop the flow of fentanyl in this country, so he's stopping them. Whereas we have less evidence that Trump stopped the people from coming to the country with fentanyl in his administration, because, again, as I said before, we have no reason to believe that he would have. One of the points I wanted to make to the previous call that I didn't, that I will make now, is the fact that you had, yes, the numbers come from like Homeland Security and INS and stuff like that, but it is Donald Trump and people in his administration who run those agencies and who basically make it so that, okay, well, we're going to make this a priority. We're going to make this a priority. We're going to make this less of a priority. So they can prioritize things as they wish. And as such, it was very clear during the Trump administration that he was going after low-hanging fruit, like, parents of dreamers and stuff like that, and not, people who may have crossed the border and may not have followed all of the rules that we set forth for people crossing the border. So they're here in an undocumented way, in a quote illegal way, but they're not doing anything else bad. So Donald Trump's like, hey, look at all these people. Look at all these
laws, Dan.
Sure, fine, but if the only law that you broke was wanting to be in this country, that's not like the people who are trying to do human trafficking or the people trying to bring fentanyl in and stuff like that. Whereas I don't feel that Donald Trump made stopping fentanyl a priority. I don't believe that at all. Okay. I think Donald and as such, it's probably one of the reasons why you saw less fentanyl stops in this from border crossings, because if Donald Trump would have done more action with his administration to stop fentanyl stops, then he would have had to report, look at all this fentanyl that's coming across the border, and he would have been like, well, we can't say that because then that means fentanyl's crossing the border. But in reality, you're stopping the fentanyl. So yeah, the border, and I have a very hard time taking conservatives seriously on border policy when they won't criticize the Republican Party for not taking the deal that they had on the table. They had a deal on the table.
That deal was a bad deal. It was guaranteeing them a pathway to citizenship with no responsibility whatsoever at the laws that were broken or have been broken or will be broken in the future. That was a bad deal. You keep bringing that up, that the Republicans.
I bring it up, but it's a Republican from Oklahoma, a Republican senator from Oklahoma who wrote the damn thing. I'm like, why would he write the bad deal? Why do you not trust he's the one that's saying it would have been a good deal had we passed it, and Donald Trump came in and said, no, do not pass this. We don't have, if we would have had that bill passed, we would have had more people, to be able to adjudicate the cases of asylum, to figure out whether or not somebody is capable of or should be getting asylum or not, in which case, if they can't get asylum, then they go back out, they go to the back of the line, stuff like that. But they didn't want that because the reason the conservatives in the House didn't want that passed is because Donald Trump told them not to pass it, because he would rather it be an issue on Election Day than have it be solved by Election Day. And maybe if it doesn't...
That's quite possible. It was a bad bill, I think, in my opinion. But that's quite possible. Why Trump did it, I don't know. We'd have to ask him. But I think it was a bad bill.
So, I mean, but I'm not going to sit here and say a bad bill is better than no bill, but I think that the Biden administration gave a lot of concessions to Republicans for what they wanted in that legislation. And again, are all bills going to be perfect? No, especially if they're bipartisan, because compromise bills tend to be that. Compromises. You give a little to gain a little. As such, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm not convinced on anything, because if Donald Trump would have said, hey, pass that bill, it's a step in the right direction, and then said, I will fix the bill when I get into office, then I could take him and the conservatives who were supporting that action a lot more seriously than now. But I can't, because if you think it's a problem and you had a staunch conservative Republican, I don't think the Republican senator is somebody whose conservative bona fides are questioned. So again, I just don't know how you go about saying, the Democrats don't want to do anything about the border when we literally tried to, and we were told, nope, we're not going to do it because it's an election year. So
I think both
anyway.
parties have done nothing about the border over the years, Dan. But I appreciate you taking my call. Just one thing I want to say to everybody out there, and your listeners especially, since they're obviously, most of them are liberal. Look, if Trump's going to get elected, okay? Look, why not, like you called out, support Biden, step behind the administration. Let's fix this country. Let's stop the name calling, stop the nonsense. And look, Trump's going to make mistakes, but you know what? Like I said, if he doesn't do a good job, 4 years from now, America will still be here. We can elect a Democrat president then.
Okay.
So I just say everybody try getting along, okay?
One more point though for that. If you're going to tell people to stop the name calling, you have to do that yourself, including the fact that I believe you went into Hal Sparks' chat the other day and called one of my mods a slur, an LGBTQ slur. That's what I heard.
No, I didn't call him a slur. But I did go into the chat though, and I was it was her.
You didn't call Hal a slur, but she says you called her a slur. So if you want to see people, if you want to wait, I'm just going to say because
I agree with what you're saying. I agree.
Right, I'm going to say if you want to see people not calling names, be the change you want to see in the world, and maybe people might react to you a little better. Anyway, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. I think I gave you your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
God bless.
All right. Let's see. Ichabod Deer, FDJ6T. Cynthia, Texas wasn't the best bill, but something is better than nothing. Progression with every step, no matter how small. Exactly. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, or a lot of times how I reword it from President Obama, don't let your perfect. Individuals shouldn't let their perfect be the enemy of the overall good, because that's, I think, a better way to put it. My perfect may not be your perfect, which may not be Gibson's perfect, which may not be Nick's perfect, which may not be Big Hook's perfect. We all have an example of what our perfect might be. Now, ours, if you watch and listen to Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left, that's right. If you watch the show, you listen to the show, we probably agree on a lot more things that would make things perfect than maybe some of the other folks who are on the other side of the aisle. That being said, we still need to not let our perfect interfere with the overall greater good. Anyway, see, Aaron West in charge Secret Service green fees on his courses. Of course he did. Of course Donald Trump did that. I mean, Donald Trump said, I would love to see, I don't know if somebody has actually came up with it, but I would love to see a link that shows exactly how much money came into the Trump organization at all of his resorts when he directed all of the people to stay at his resorts. Because I'm guarantee you it's probably much more money that came into the Donald Trump corporations than he gave up as president. Even though he really didn't give it up, he still had to get paid it, but he claimed he donated it. But if he donated it, that just gives him tax write-off. So again, not the greatest. Hey Josh, thank you for that. All right, we got all ones on the board, which might be say that this is either a friend from Atlanta or Brother Michael from overseas. Is this which one?
Yes.
It is Brother Michael.
My dear friend. Yes,
good to hear from you. How are you today?
Dan, thank you most. I appreciate you asking, and I hanging tight. But especially Joe Gibson, North Carolina. Please type it in your any search engine, and you find who the hell he is. I mean, he's not reasonable never. And I was in another show. He insulted me, and of course I had to give him back what he gave it to him back. But I was calling for peace, love, unity, but he is pro-civil war. Yeah, he keeps saying, people are already talking about taking over, blah, 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 blah. And he has a righteous army. He is part of the righteousarmy.org. But please don't go there, because they steal all your information, because it's cookies, and first thing they ask you, put your email, second thing ask you for donations, and this is something out of is a fake to me. But they say, we are so strong. And then I had a show with Daniel St. John. Daniel, we love you. And I'm sorry your show is closed because, they came in between us. Well, 7 weeks ago, about 7 weeks ago, if 6 to 7 weeks ago, if you go, Seeds of Change from Freedom Miser Radio, and then you will see about after 1 hour, 20 minutes, I was there with Daniel. Yes, me and Daniel, we have some difference, but we always talked with humbleness to each other. But then they came and basically they steal her show, and plus, saying, use your phone and send us, information and etc. But their mission is to overthrow the U.S. government. So, righteousarmy.org, as they say, peacefully first. But if it's not peacefully, then we are going to go war with federal government. So I expose that, and I will expose that again and again. And this Joseph Gibson, as you know, who the hell he is. So just for your information, Mike.
Oh, I know, and this is not our first rodeo with Joe. The only reason I had my hand ready on the hang up button because I've hung up on him before. I blocked one of his accounts on YouTube before, and he's said and done some things that I found very questionable, to say the least. But I was making this show more of an open line show, so I gave him a little bit more leeway than I normally did. I think the call went well. Again, I was limiting all the people who were trying to disagree with me on whether or not on Trump being the top 5 worst nominee for president ever. I was going to give a little bit more leeway this time, but give people less time to talk than I normally would do, simply because of the fact that I figured I might get more people calling in, and we've at least had 3 now, which is, I like the debate.
Yeah, your show is great,
Thank you.
My friend. But the question is, and also he made some show against me, and he put it on the YouTube, and I don't care. I get more stronger, actually. We both all stronger, and I'm waiting for Daniel St. John. We love you, and I hope her show is resumed, and I will be her co-host for the next for the last 2 hours of the show. First, her mom comes and talk, and usually then after that it was me calling her. But right now her show is closed. She's upset, and I understand that. Danielle, she used to be Green Party, but now she is, of course, towards the Trump right now. But it's okay. We have differences. We have to celebrate our differences, which we did, and and we were doing great shows. If you go to Seeds of Change other times, you will see that how we did the show with love and harmony and peace. But unfortunately, they came with their somebody called him Mike. That he's a general of the righteous army. I said, what kind of army is that? Do you have F-35? No, you don't. Do you have tanks? You don't have a tank. So how are you going to overthrow the U.S. government, for example? But anyway, let me tell you about what's going on in Israel, my dear friend.
Okay.
And Israel is going to, for sure, is going to give a very high response to the Ayatollahs, and most probably nuclear, places in Bushehr and few other locations will be targeted for sure, and also house of the Ayatollahs in Tehran. And they're going to go after the head of the octopus. And we hope that the head of octopus they know exactly where he is. So basically will be successful. But we have heard also the generals of the Ayatollahs are very upset and very They know that is if the attack happens, that means end of the regime. So they have threatened to attack the nuclear facilities of Israel as well before they attack. So we have to wait the next 96 hours to see what would be happen. But if that happens, that means Israel will go nuke at pretty much every installations, oil, everything, because that's not possible, But Israel has right now thoughts, as you know, and we have so many new hardware and missiles came to Israel. So Israel is ready, loaded, just to go. And I hope they strike them first before. If the Ayatollahs, they do that, then it will be a little bit more mass than it is.
Well, yeah, I think Israel was responsible when Iraq, back in the 80s, I think, early 80s, maybe late 80s, early 90s, yes, I think Iraq was showing that they were having the possibility of having a nuclear capability, and they dealt with it. Israel dealt with as well. Right. There was one Israeli mission. I remember they were trying to get back for something North Korea did, and basically they had a jet fighter that basically used American refueling planes and flew all the way out to there, hit something and struck them from North Korea, then came all the way back using American refueling as well. So Israel will get stuff done. If anything can show that Israel will get stuff done that they want to get done, it was that the beeper plan that they had, where they found
yes,
all the beepers, and they put all the little explosives in the beepers and made it so that they could
exactly
just set them all off. Exactly. Yes. I mean, Israel has the wherewithal and the smarts and the ability to do whatever they want to do. I just wish that they would use that wherewithal and knowledge and skill to harm less people and be more surgical with their strikes when it comes to Hamas and Hezbollah. That being said, Hamas and Hezbollah can all go DIAF, as the youth say, because, terrorists are terrorists. I just, I don't think, I think Israel needs to be very careful and hasn't been careful enough in protecting human life. Even when
exactly.
Hezbollah and Hamas uses the human life as human shields, still Israel could do a much better job. But anyway, you said something about before you make your point, you had said something about, before I forget, about that there was a video or something that Gibson Media uploaded to YouTube about you. I would be very interested. If you
Joseph did it. It says Mike from Singapore is T. I don't want to vocabulary right now, but it's a T from Iran and etc. And he tried to I'm an international journalist, 20 years, 15 years at minimum here in the BTR, and I know everybody pretty much. And it was very bad, but I don't care. Let him put it there, put it anywhere he wants. But we know.
But I'd like, if you have a link to it, I'd love to you to email me at liberaldanradio@gmail.com. Just send me the email. I want to see it. I want to see just what he did.
Just put it, Mike from Singapore. Sometimes, okay. But I think maybe he has taken it off. I don't know, but
maybe
it's there, and it's not. But you cannot watch it. They want you to sign in because he used very bad vocabularies, and so they want you to sign it. So please don't sign it. Just ignore it. I don't even care because God knows probably they put virus in it too, etc. But the question is again, Turkey, the aerospace were exploded yesterday. And so nobody has taken responsibility yet, but it's because, the president of the, Turkey, he doesn't like Israel right now, kind of.
Right.
So I don't know what happened. So. But now their aerospace agency is gone because they were making drones. So basically it's gone to the hell right now. So that's another thing for you guys. Okay. And
well, thank you so much again. Appreciate you. No, I think we're good. Thank you very much, though, for the call. Appreciate you as always, as well, Brother Michael, and we look forward to having you on, calling in to more shows in the
Shalom.
future.
Thank you
So
very much.
shalom. Have a good
to you.
have a good day for you. It's still night for me, but have a good day
Yes.
for you. All right.
Yes.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. Let's see. Big Hook. I can answer. Do you think Putin will stop attacking Ukraine if Trump's doing? We don't control other countries any more than I control you. There is no reason. The only reason that Putin will stop attacking Ukraine is because Ukraine stops fighting back. So if Donald Trump gets into office and he decides that he's not going to allow Ukraine to have any more weapons, and he's going to block the sending of more weapons and the ability to help Ukraine defend themselves, then Ukraine at that point might say, "Hey, we need to take whatever deal it is that that Donald Trump will allow and that Putin will allow, and as such, Ukraine will be wrecked." So that's just another reason why we can't allow Donald Trump to regain power in this country, because he's just going to be Putin's puppet, as Hillary said back in the 2016 debates. That Trump was Putin's puppet, and she was dead on balls accurate, to use Mona Lisa veto terminology. Let's see, Easy E. I think Netanyahu will not be as well funded under Kamala. She will move to take away a lot of Israel's funding for evil. I think that that's probably true. I mean, the current administration did basically say, I think today or yesterday, that if things don't improve with the aid receiving of aid in Gaza in 30 days, that they're going to start a weapons embargo. So again, why didn't that start sooner? I can't speak to that, but that may very well have some be some level of influence from Vice President Harris at this point. That being said, a lot of the criticism from people on the left who are criticizing Harris for supporting genocide. She doesn't have much authority to do much of anything as it pertains to the actions of Israel, and as they pertain to how they go after Hamas and Hezbollah, and as such, it's kind of hard to put that on her. But you know, the people who are doing Putin's work for them, even unwillingly or unknowingly, are still going to be doing Putin's work for him, because the Putin disinformation campaign is much more sophisticated than many of the people anticipate that it is. So, yes, Cernamucky, Slava Ukraine, absolutely. Hamas and Hezbollah are evil, absolutely, agree 100%. They can fight with what they have, make Israel have to negotiate with Palestinian leaders. Ichabod Deer, Trump loves Hitler, General Kelly. I mean, that influence is a control, but influence is, influence still, if you allow yourself to be influenced, then that's basically allowing yourself to be controlled. So, Jolie, so freaking funny, such a great call, even though I missed some of it from laughing so hard. What, the Gibson one or the other one? Or the cat fountain thing? I think I've missed the cat fountain thing. I think might not be in on a joke there. So, let's see. What else have I missed in the chat? Let me scroll up. I think Republicans think we won't want a civil war if Trump's elected again. It's only if he enacts Project 2025 that we would want the civil war. I don't know. I mean, I don't see any reason for him to believe that he won't enact Project 2025. So, you know, it is what it is. Let me do one thing first before we get off the air. Oh, it's $7.99 to gift a membership now. That's fine. Let's see. We'll use the Google Play balance, and then we will one tap buy. We are gifting a subscription to somebody on Twitch because I want the 3 free months of Discord. So we are gifting to Twitch. Let's see. Oh, it's DP Golding. There you go. DP Golding gets the free Twitch subscription. So mazel tov to you. Congratulations. Now, you might not be here at the time, but you know, it is what it is. And I get 2 things. $7.99 for the overall cost of the subscription, but I get some of it back because it's me paying myself. and then I get the 3 free months of, once it clears as a Twitch drop, I'm going to get 3 free months of Discord Nitro. If you don't have that yet and want to try it, you can go ahead and there's still time for you to go over on Twitch and gift somebody else a subscription as well. That way, people will you'll help yourself with $30 worth of Discord Nitro, and you'll also be helping out the show. So, see, Janelle, it was on Tommy's show. Sounded like the caller was peeing. That's hilarious. It's easy. I am anti-war, but not if it means you have to give in to fascism and communism. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I wish that no war to take place, but if you need to defend yourself, yeah, absolutely, defend yourself. You know, and defend the right people. That's why I absolutely support what we are doing to help the Ukrainian people help themselves, but as it pertains to Putin's aggression and illegal attack on the country of Ukraine. That's why I support defending yourselves against terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah. Just the way you do it, as Vice President Harris says, the way you defend yourself is important, because you have to defend yourself, but you can't do it in a way that makes you look like you're evil as well. So that's the point there. And of course,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. The people who want the Ukraine war to end don't think Putin is a major threat like I do. Well, no, they don't. And you're right. There are plenty of people who, and by the way, YouTube, you can't take me down for this because this is public domain. We've already had that issue before. But the people who want the Ukraine war, yeah, I mean, they either don't think that Putin is a major threat, because they either think that Donald Trump is, if Donald Trump wins, he's going to be he's going to be the leader of the free world. No. If Donald Trump wins, Putin leads the world. Because Donald Trump will always pander to Putin because of all the crap that Putin has on Trump. So, but Vladimir Putin, anybody who doesn't think that Vladimir Putin is a major threat is either a hypocrite or lying to themselves or whatever. Because again, as we talked about with the conversation with one of the other callers, when I think it was Big Hook, when we were talking about what happened with Obama in 2012 and his comments where he was caught on a live mic saying that he'd be more able to talk with Putin after the election's over. He'd be more free to have those conversations. And of course the conservatives were like, oh, what's he going to give to Putin? But now frickin' Trump would give Putin anything he wants. Trump is a slut for Putin. I'll do whatever he wants for me. Daddy Putin is what I call him. Yes, Steamboat Willie. If it's a shiny bell hung from a ring, won't you play with my ding? Won't you play with my ding-a-ling-a-ling? My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. Sorry. Now you got that damn song in my head. Angelo was the leader of the free world and Trump hated that. Well, that too. I love the memes that people made where Trump was like sitting there with his arm crossed, like all upset with Chancellor Merkel, and all of a sudden people photoshopped him sitting in like a baby's high chair with the white thing where you put your food. And hilarious. So yes, Chuck Berry. I know it's Chuck Berry. I didn't know it was Chuck Berry when I initially learned the song. I initially learned the song in like summer camp, but I'm like, quite afterwards, I'm like, is this really a song that we should be teaching young kids? I mean, yes, it's funny, but little some of it's just maybe a little bit too much for kids to have. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm being a little bit of a prude on that. I don't know. Clever play on words. So let's see. The French won't accept Putin leading the world. They don't even want to speak English, just like the Scots. And if it's not Scottish, it's crap. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people won't accept Putin running the world, but I mean, technically we've had the idea that the person who is the president of the United States is the leader of the free world, and Trump has no leadership skills, and the idea that the world will be free under Donald Trump's presidency, we will become much less free if that happens. So, anyway, we all know he was talking about penis. Yes, we all know that. Yes, absolutely, we do. Anyway, so I think I think we've had a good show. I think we've, we handled several of the callers. We had a bunch of callers today, which was nice, and I think we handled it as well as can be expected. I think I shut down Joe Gibson pretty well. Anyway, but hey, he didn't like the fact that I talked about Big Hook that said something about might have been shot in the head or whatever. I think he was talking proverbially and not literally about literally shooting oneself in the head. But I mean, I think we're literally cutting off there are a lot of people who are willing to cut off their noses despite their faces when it comes to voting for Donald Trump, especially the people who, are in oppressed and marginalized cultures. Like if you're Muslim and if you're a black person, if you're a Jewish person and you're voting for Donald Trump, you might need to have your head examined, because at the end of the day, you're cutting off your own nose to spite your face. Because for some reason you have this flawed idea that Donald Trump's going to be better for this country, and I think we've shown on this podcast for years that that's not the case. Anyway, this is the end of today's episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. We will be back unless something big happens on Monday, 8 p.m. Central, liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. blogtalkradio.com/liberaldan as well. Please share Yen's link pinned at both chats, because I think it's great that a friend of mine is running for Congress, and I wish her all the best and all the success, and to spread the word of Yen running as well. Until next time I see you, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.